And now, introducing a man who was stopped the other night trying to stuff the ballots to get Barry Bonds into the Hall of Fame. When the young lady who stopped him asked him what he was doing, he said, "I gotta get Barry Bonds into the Hall of Fame. I gotta save baseball." The young lady responded saying, "Sir, those are napkins, that's a suggestion box, and this is a Wendy's." He's in the Hall of guys who have been on the radio. He is Glenn Clark.
It's an Arby's, actually. You missed that. It was an Arby's.
Oh.
I was there for a Big Montana.
I was about to say a Big Montana, which doesn't exist anymore.
Man, that scene, was that what Amanda Peet was consuming in Sarah Silverman? Was it Big Montana?
I want a Big Montana.
It's the most important motion picture, not named Catch Me If You Can, of our lifetime. I'm just telling you. Saving Silverman, I will stand by this, the greatest comedy of a generation and the most criminally underappreciated film perhaps ever. Saving Silverman is perfect. It is perfect. Come in here!
You ate him?
You
ate him.
Yeah.
That's the perfect crime.
Yes, correct. Oh, God, I love that movie. Hi, hello, Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. I'm not ready. God, sorry. Try again. Oh, I got to keep going. That's the way it works. That's a shame. That's a real shame. We got a lot to do. It is a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of the program. We will get to that. Also coming up today, Drew Forrester is going to join us. Normally, I like to bury that in later on in the show so that we can, we don't chase anybody away from the good stuff that we're going to do.
You sounded so defeated when you said it. Drew Forrester.
I mean, it's what it is. Unfortunately, we got to do early with him this week, just the way the schedule worked out. I'm so sorry. I love Drew. I just, we all know what we're getting into when we put Drew on the show. Later on in the program, speaking of Barry Bonds, the great Jon Miller is going to join us as we're going to get his thoughts on Barry Bonds not getting into the Hall of Fame. As you know, Jon Miller, after he left Baltimore, has been in San Francisco for now a few decades. He arrived there, I think, roughly the same time Barry Bonds did, in fact. And we'll get it, just some thoughts on I know Jon Miller called every one of Barry Bonds' significant moments, and I don't know what the relationship was like. I don't know if Jon Miller would say, "Yeah, he was unlikable to me too." I just don't know. I've never talked to Jon Miller about Barry Bonds. Never had that conversation. I'm gonna guess he won't. Just my guess. It's also an excuse to have Jon Miller on the program, and Jon Miller is one of the best. So I'm always happy to do that. And then also today we're going to catch up with Nendah Tarke. He, of course, from Coppin State. They've had a nice little run of late, including some significantly dramatic shots from him, a game-winning shot at the buzzer from mid-court, or from half-court, I guess they call that. Call so many sports, sometimes I forget the terminology. From half-court to beat Morgan State 2 weeks ago, and then he followed it up on Monday night with a game winner against Howard. It's been a nice little run for Nendah Tarke. We're going to catch up with him. And speaking of basketball, Trevelin Queen is a North County alum. He's a Glen Burnie native whose path to professional basketball is quite bizarre. Community colleges, briefly being homeless, literally living in his car. I don't even think it was his car, actually. I think it was a friend's car in California to try to keep the dream alive. And it all paid off for him as this year he made his NBA debut with the Houston Rockets. He scored double digits in a few games. Right now, he's back down with their G League team, the Rio Grande Valley team, but he's on a two-way contract and can get called back up at any point, and he has lived the dream. He is living the dream after literally having nothing not that long ago. Trevelin Queen, great story. We're going to catch up with him this morning as well. So lots to do on the program today. Today's show is also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Make the most out of every day in a Toyota RAV4, available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today. I just want to take a minute, if I could. I know you've already probably seen a number of the tributes out. We talked to Jeremy about it on Monday. Today is Mo Gabba's birthday, and today Mo would have turned 16 years old. And there's nothing necessarily new, unfortunately, to be said. I was talking about this the anniversary of the day that my childhood best friend passed us recently, and I was talking with his sister, and I'm like, every year I feel like I'm sharing the same stuff when we talk about him, because unfortunately that's what happens when someone passes away. There's just not anything new to share about them. There's nothing that you can do. But what it is a reminder of who they were, what they were about, why they mattered so much. It's the reason why we renamed our Sports Person of the Year award the Mo Gaba Sports Person of the Year, is because, as we talked about this with Sanzi, every year we want someone to go pick up that issue of Press Box, see someone like Justin Tucker, or perhaps in the future Adley Rutschman or Grayson Rodriguez, or whoever it is the Ravens draft this year, Nakobe Dean, I don't know. We want them to pick it up and say, Mo Gaba Sports Person of the Year. What is that? What does that mean? Because we understand that at some point in the coming years, as younger people get older and older people move on, there are less people that know the story. So ideally, 50 years from now, we're still putting out Press Box issues, and it's one more reason for somebody to pick up and say, what is this Mo Gaba? Tell me about them. That's the idea. It's why we want the Ravens to continue doing the Mo thing in the end zone for as long as possible. The idea is that we want there to be all these opportunities for someone else who didn't know Mo to learn his story. You all, of course, know Mo's story. If you're listening to this show, I can't fathom someone listening to this show and not knowing Mo's story. You know what he meant to me, and I've said before, the most powerful thing I can say is that when we decided to make Mo Gaba our Sports Person of the Year a few years back, I got a hold of the story that Bill Ordine wrote, and I said to myself, it's a little over the top. I mean, it's just a little over the top. He wrote about Eric DaCosta essentially talking about holding Mo's hand and comparing it to, like, finding Jesus. And I was like, okay, man. Like, okay. Until the next time I was out with Mo, and Mo wanted me to hold his hand. And we sat there, and we held hands for 15 minutes, and I had the exact same feeling that Eric DaCosta did and had to apologize because I felt it, and I knew it was real, and it overwhelmed me. The most remarkable human being I've ever come across, by far. And there have been some wonderful human beings that I've had the chance to get to know. But there's nothing that's close. And every year, you maybe get bombarded with the same pictures and the same, because I keep saying that you can't have anything new. It's impossible when someone passes away. But please understand, the point is simply to continue the conversation, because someone today that you know doesn't know who Mo Gaba is. Not likely someone here, but someone you know. And you sharing something about Mo on social media will make them stop and say, who is this person? Why should I care? And perhaps they'll learn Mo's story, and it'll impact their life in some sort of way that it impacted my life, that it obviously impacted Jeremy's life, and so many of us that came across Mo Gaba in whatever form or fashion. My wife barely had any interaction with Mo. And this morning, we were looking at a video and started crying all over again. Because that's the type of impact. So that's the reason, and that's the reason why, it won't just be today. It'll be, in the summer when we get to the anniversary of the day that Mo passed away. We get to anniversaries of days that Mo did various things, calling out a draft pick, throwing out the first pitch. Every time, there's going to be more and more videos, pictures, reflections that are shared of Mo Gaba, and I'm grateful for that. It's the opportunity to teach someone about this remarkable young man and maybe impact their life by learning about it. Maybe they just rub a little off in that way. I appreciate your T-shirt today, Paul. was requested from Mo's family that everybody wear their Orioles and Ravens gear today, and so I don't normally wear Orioles or Ravens gear. It's just not something that I do a whole lot of because, it's a church and state kind of thing. But for Mo, 1,000%. And that's not, it's not like I wouldn't wear gear. If I just go sit in the stands at a game, I might very well wear an Orioles shirt. I don't know. It's tricky. But I was very happy to do that, and was happy that, honored that the family invited me out tonight, and going to get together with a lot of people that knew and cared about Mo. And so there'll be a lot of emotions. Every time I just get together with Sansi, and my wife and I have gotten together with Sansi a couple times, it's just like, I hate this, because Sansi's become a friend, and I just want to be, like, have a relationship and a friendship but it's still, like, it's just so unbelievably emotional, like, because you just can't avoid it. You can't avoid it. So hopefully it'll be more happy than it'll be sad tonight to see everybody. But obviously a very emotional day, as today is Mo Gabba's 16th birthday. So just want to spend a minute with that this morning. Just wanted to reflect on that. It's very difficult. It's like yesterday. It's very difficult to just transition and do silly. Very difficult to just do silly, but we'll do our best moving forward to do some silly on today's show. A couple more candidates that we now know about for the Ravens defensive coordinator. Obviously, we knew about Joe Witt from the Cowboys. Add Chris Richard from the Saints to that list, as Josina Anderson reported yesterday, the former Seahawks secondary coach. Actually, let me go. Sorry, I think I have that backwards. Chris Richard. I got a little thing going on here. I don't know what that's all about. Player. No, not that one. Not that guy. Different guy. Very different guy. What's that Chris Richard doing these days? Wonder how life turned out for him. Seahawks defensive coordinator, and of course Cowboys defensive backs coach, and now most recently the Saints defensive backs coach. Chris Richard, a candidate to be the Ravens' next defensive coordinator, and also according to Mike Preston of the Baltimore Sun last night, we learned about a couple more potential candidates for the Ravens defensive coordinator job. One not surprising whatsoever, as he mentioned Joe Cullen. Ravens, this is from Mike Preston. Ravens expected to talk with Jaguars defensive line coach Joe Cullen within the next day and have interest in Bucs inside linebackers coach Mike Caldwell, according to sources. Sound like Mike Francesa. Sauces, according to my sauces. He also says keep an eye on Michigan defense coordinator Mike McDonald and Ravens D-line coach Anthony Weaver as favorites for the vacant defensive coordinator position. Those are two names that have been brought up a lot. Obviously, Anthony Weaver, being internal, was defensive coordinator in Houston. We know that the Ravens over the years have liked to promote from within in terms of the defensive coordinator spot. What's interesting is the majority of the candidates that we're finding out about are not internal. You could say Joe Cullen kind of is technically internal because, he had been with the Ravens until a year ago. So you could say, it's essentially hiring an internal candidate. It's just somebody who disappeared for a year. Mike McDonald has, of course, a history in Baltimore, went out to Michigan. There has been some debate as to whether or not John Harbaugh would pry his brother's defensive coordinator away. I think there has been some sort of thought that, it would be more likely that he would do it if Jim Harbaugh leaves Michigan and, say, takes the Raiders' job than if Jim Harbaugh ends up staying at Michigan. Mike McDonald's candidacy might have something to do with that. John Harbaugh wouldn't feel bad about trying to go after a guy that would be in transition. Now, I don't know why if John Harbaugh likes Mike McDonald as defensive coordinator, why wouldn't Jim Harbaugh like Mike McDonald to be his defensive coordinator in the NFL, right? What would make him not qualified to be that guy? So that's a little bit weird. That's just, all of that is kind of strange. If Jim Harbaugh's taking an NFL job, then presumably Mike McDonald will be in line to get that NFL job. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, then why would he like the Baltimore NFL job more than the Vegas NFL job with the guy that he's been working with and having success with? Maybe he would. I just don't know Mike McDonald that well. It just seems a little odd on the surface.
Can they play Yamo B there to sway him?
Thank you. That's a very good point. Yamo burned this mother down. There's going to be no Michael McDonald disrespect in this house. Michael McDonald is a blue-eyed soul genius. I mean, the man is just everything you could ask for in a musical performer. All that being said, I also don't know why Mike Macdonald, if Jim Harbaugh leaves, wouldn't necessarily be a candidate to become the next Michigan head coach. I don't really – I get that, like, maybe if you're Michigan, you just think you can shoot for the stars, but the reason why Michigan ever became anything is because they figured out how to play defense. It sure as F wasn't their offense. It had zippy to do with that. It was because they had a dominant defense this year, and you have this young coach. I would just think that perhaps that would be someone much like what Notre Dame did in elevating to replace Brian Kelly. I would think that Michigan would want to consider that too. All that being said, it's kind of all over the place. There's not any one individual trait that is particularly unique to the candidates that we have known about. Some people have pointed out that both, like Chris Richard in particular, is known for front four pressure, and that it looks like the Ravens right now are talking more with 4-3 guys than 3-4 guys. That's where it is that they're going, that they think that the future of their defense philosophically is as a 4-3 group that needs to get more pressure up front. I think a lot of people share that opinion. I think that I've heard that a great deal. There were people that had issues with Brandon Williams because Brandon Williams didn't make plays in the backfield. He didn't disrupt quarterbacks because that wasn't his job in a 3-4 defense. His job was to take on the double teams and allow the linebackers to make tackles, and he was unbelievably good at it. So if that was your issue, and if you think the Ravens should move on from Brandon Williams, then you probably line up with the idea they should be running a 4-3 defense where the front four are more responsible for trying to get after the quarterback, where you put higher priority on someone whose job alone is win your matchup, go get quarterback on the ground. I'm guessing that's the way that you feel.
What does that do for your run defense?
Find out. Somebody would say, is that as important at this point? You got to beat Joe Burrow for the next few years, right? Like,
and Joe Mixon.
That's fair, and Joe Mixon, but at the end of the day, they're winning or losing based on what Joe Burrow does, right? Like, I'm not saying you don't have to stop the run. You're not going to face the run, anything along those lines, but you got to get quarterbacks on the ground, and specifically this one quarterback looks like the guy that you're going to have to get after. The funny thing is I don't have a strong opinion about it one way or the other. I probably line up more with whatever the scenario is where you're trying to develop pass rushers. I have never been – I like Wink Martindale. I think he did a fine job for the most part in Baltimore. Obviously, this season was not great. And analytically, there were great arguments for build your defense through your secondary. That from an analytical standpoint, there was a great argument for that. But I keep looking around and seeing the success the teams are having that are at times carried by one strong pass rusher. Whether that's Nick Bosa in San Francisco, whether that's been T.J. Watt legitimately carrying the Pittsburgh Steelers into the postseason this year when they couldn't do anything on the other side of the ball. And I say to myself, I just don't know. I don't know that in the modern NFL, when a team gets the ball back late in the game and you have to win, I don't know that the play can be made via a secondary any longer. I think you can have a really good defense that's better and analytically better because of your strong secondary. But at the end of a game, when someone needs a stop, when you have to make a play, I am more and more convinced. What was the one time that happened this season? Odafe Owe getting in the backfield, making a play. Mm-hmm. I am more and more convinced that has to come from someone being disruptive in the backfield. I just don't think that you can do it, and I think the nature of football is you got to win games. You got to almost assume that you're going to be playing close games, likely high-scoring games. Though the Ravens, if they're sticking with Greg Roman, are presumably going to keep trying to run the ball and be dominant. But you're going to need stops at the end. Someone has to step up and make a play when the opposing team has 4 downs in order to convert. And in order to do that, you need to be disruptive in the backfield. You need to have a big yardage loss type of play in order to do what you need to do. And I think that comes from dynamic pass rushers. And I just don't know that the Ravens and what they were doing was best suited for having dynamic pass rushers make plays in the backfield. So my gut tells me that's the right way to go about doing this, based on the way that modern football exists. Could be wrong. I believe it or not, I've been wrong before. But it's just sort of what jumps off the page at me and why I probably line up with this idea that that's the direction they need to go. We'll see. I think that somebody saw, I think it was maybe Josina Anderson's report, suggested that they want to try to get this taken care of within the week. So we will see how that plays out. All right. Today's show is also brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. You want to be there for the big game in the FanDuel Sportsbook. There's nowhere quite like Live Casino Hotel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. You want to hang out and you want to live in just an intense atmosphere for the big game. The place to do it is Live Casino and Hotel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. You got to get an email to events@sportssocialmd.com right now in order to guarantee your spot for the big game. Like, you just know there's going to be a lot of demand. There was an insane scene when we were there on Sunday for the divisional playoffs. It's going to be just like that, if not even more, for the big game. So email events@sportssocialmd.com right now. And they have so many great offers. Like, if you go down this weekend for championship weekend, they're doing a thing where if you bet a $25 same-game parlay at one of their kiosks, even if you lose, they're going to enter you in to win a huge grand prize, including a 75-inch TV and tickets to the home opener next year and all of them. I mean, it's just insane. They have so many awesome things happening in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Get down there, check it out, Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Good morning, Drew Forrester. How are you, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm here. What's happening?
Why were you... we got. There's something wrong with the phone. Hang on 1 second. Hit mute. Fix that. Thank you. And then let's try that. You just got to make sure it's hung up, and then you got to bring me back up too. Reintroduce the phone, and we'll see if we can't get that fixed. Go ahead. Oh, Drew, you there?
Yeah, rookies.
Apologies.
Yep.
All right.
It'll take a while. He'll learn.
It's fine. Everything's fine. Why were you at the Wizards game last night? Why in God's name would you go to?
Oh my God! You know, that was my once. I don't think I had been since I took a group down to see them play Curry and Durant the year that the Warriors went like 80-2 or whatever they went. I hadn't been in forever, and it was, you know, business kind of, sort of. A friend of mine had a suite, and we went down and, you know, hung out, goofed around, drank some wine with people, and had a good time. And the game was insane. I mean, it was historical.
I mean, insane.
It's the third time in 26 years that a team's blown a 30-point lead.
Correct. That happened. They ended up losing.
And all they had to do was throw the ball inbounds, get the ball inbounds. There would have been a foul. Now, they weren't actually hitting their foul shots very well. They couldn't even get the ball inbounds, and that's how Kennard hit the final shot.
Well, okay, but you also, like, at that point when you've blown a 30-point lead.
Like, your head is
100%.
Off.
Like, there's just no way.
Yeah.
Now, look, I'm not going to pretend like I watched the game, nor have I watched any Washington Wizards game. It just doesn't do anything for me. But
it was crazy. I mean, this happens once a year. You see a sporting event, and you say, and I use this in coaching, but you see a sporting event once a year, and you say, that's why I'll never again say the game's over.
Well, it's why you shouldn't be betting on sports either.
But no doubt.
But you're going to do that anyway.
But this is another reminder. Like, no matter what you think, the game is not over. They were ahead by 35 points.
And by the way, this is the type of thing that we like. I bring this up constantly when people are like, "You're up by 4 touchdowns and you still have Lamar Jackson in there at the beginning of the fourth quarter." I'm like, "There's still 15 minutes left in the game." Right. I understand this team isn't coming back. I know that. You know that. It's the same. It's the same reason why it was so ridiculous. Vic Fangio was absurd, and it was unbelievably over the top what he said. But John Harbaugh was full of crap too when he said what he said about Vic Fangio. Well, they're still throwing the ball with 20 seconds left. Of course they are. It's a 2-possession game. They have to. You have to try, because you never know what's going to happen in sports, because sometimes teams blow 30-point leads in basketball games. And this
or or you just got to let me know how we decide that we're not playing anymore.
Right. If we get together, correct. If we get together and we all decide together, it's over. We're not trying any longer, right? Like, it was absurd. I go back to this. It was absurd what Vic Fangio said, but it was equally absurd John Harbaugh trying to say, well, they were doing things in garbage time. No, that wasn't garbage time. They still wanted the 1 in a million chance to win the football game at that point. Was it 1 in a million? Yes. It was 1 in a million that they were going to score a touchdown, get a 2-point conversion, kick an onside kick, throw a Hail Mary, get another touchdown, and get another 2-point conversion. But you don't stop trying. You don't just say, well, it's
unless you wave over to me.
Right.
When it's the top of the 9th inning. Yep. And you got a runner on second, and you're losing, or first, and you're losing 9-2. Unless you want to wave over and say, hey, we're not going to try to steal here.
Yep, we're done. We're packing it in. We're packing it in. Everybody on board, right? We're all good.
Unless you do that, we're going to assume, and this was my argument against people who wanted to beat up the Chargers coach. This was my argument against them. The Raiders were trying to score there.
Correct.
100%.
Correct. They wanted to win the game.
They were trying, and anyone who says they weren't wasn't watching.
Well, and
they were trying to score because they didn't want to go play in Kansas City.
And by the way, there would have been a limit to that. There was a certain range. If that kick had been,
100%.
say, 60 yards, they might have said, nope.
We're not going to do it.
We're not doing that.
And also, by the way, if they wouldn't have run for 7 yards on the first down, they might have also said, you know what?
Not worth it.
Second and 9, we've got to throw the ball, and, well, we're not going to do that.
100%. 100%.
So, like, this notion that this coach, like, he when he called the timeout, of course he called a timeout. They were still trying.
Correct. Correct.
Now you're in the shotgun. You've run 2 plays, and you're in the shotgun, and I, as the coach of the Chargers, say, holy hell. They're still trying.
Yeah, we got to stop this.
And I don't have the right guy.
Correct. We expected them to just keep running the ball. Now they're lining up in a shotgun. We got to be prepared for this. Look, man, this is the danger of people thinking that they know more than they actually do when it comes to this. I've said the smartest thing, and I'm not very smart, right? I'm the first to admit that. I'm not a very smart person.
Right, I would agree.
Thank you. The smartest thing I've come around to is being able to acknowledge I don't know a lot of things. I don't know. I am not. It's why I'm not. The people, and I mean this with no disrespect, the people that hand out grades to football players are frauds. And they're nice people, and I get it. They're getting a lot of attention, and they genuinely believe that they know what they're talking about. They have no effing clue what they're talking about because they are not privy.
Is this because I gave Bowser a B+ and not an A?
Well, I don't know why you would have given him a B+. I don't really understand that. No, I mean like the in-game grades. Grades. The people that are like, this guy was an 8 out of 10 for the football game. You have no clue what that person was supposed to be doing on that particular play. You do not have that information. You think you do because you think you know a lot about football. You're like, well, they were running this. Except for the fact that you don't know that.
Right. Well, I mean, I've always said this, right? Like, and I mean, I'll say this but it's the truth, and my parents all know it. Like, I say to my parents at the beginning of every golf season, I get my parents together, we have a coffee, and I tell them how excited I am to coach their young son, and I'm privileged to do it, and I'm thrilled, and I'm looking forward to a great year. And when the season begins, technically the season begins when we come back from the holiday break, but for the purposes of the season, it begins on February the 19th because that's when the MIAA says the spring sports season begins. From February 19th until the end of May, till the season ends, I will not speak to you, the parent, about your son's playing time. Never. I will speak with your son every day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day.
Mm-hmm.
If your son wants to come to me and say, hey, coach, help me, evaluate me. Why didn't I play? Why aren't I playing more? When can I play? How do I play more? I will talk to your son every day about that. But I will not speak to you about that. And the reason I'm not going to speak to you about that is very simple. Rule number 1, you're not there.
Yep. That's it.
You're not at practice every day.
That's it.
You don't see how your son plays on a Monday and a Tuesday and a Wednesday and Thursday. What you get is the abridged version from him.
Right. Correct.
Which is what I get from Ethan when I pick Ethan up at swim practice and I say, how did it go? He says, it went great. I say, well, tell me what your schedule was today. He goes, we swam 20 50s. I'm like, dude, that's a lot of swimming. He's like, yep. Did you finish it all? Yep. You had a good day? Yep. Now, I might say to the coach, how did it go? The coach might go, well, it went well. Ethan made all 20, but it took him an hour.
Yeah, sure.
But there's the difference, right? You like, this is the version you get. And so it goes back to your point. Like, you're not there.
Yep. Correct.
People are screaming about what's the running back's name that got in 3 times and everyone thought was great
What?
for the Ravens.
That got in 3? What are you talking about?
People were screaming about this
Tyson
running back.
Williams, right.
Right.
Yeah, Tyson Williams.
They're all talking about him like he's Gale Sayers.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, like, have you seen a practice? Have you seen one practice where they say to him, run this, run the ball through this gap or go here or go there, and he doesn't do it?
Yep.
And Harbaugh stops the practice and says, when are you going to figure this out? Because if you can't figure it out on a Tuesday at Owings Mills,
but he looked really good in the preseason.
You're not figuring it out on but you're not
really
figuring it out on
game.
Sunday against the Steelers.
100% with you. And the notion that teams are just willing. We know this guy's great, but we're not going to put him on the field because we don't want to win.
Correct.
Like,
I think I'd rather lose today.
It's one of the most amazing things. It's absolutely incredible how convinced we are that that's a thing. We are convinced that there are personal agendas, and the personal agendas are more important to the coaching staff than winning football games.
Yeah, I don't understand why they don't play him at shortstop.
Yeah,
if they played him, we'd win.
That's the way it goes. That's the way that it goes.
But anyway, so the game last night, insane. There were 7,000 people there at the most.
I mean, I can't believe it was that many. I mean, like
they announced like 13,000 or something, but there were 7,000 people there.
I've gone to, this is part of, I've gone to maybe 3 Wizards games in my life. Like when the Suns have been in town, I'll go, right? And I just keep thinking to myself, like, how does this work? And is it that the NBA is like Major League Baseball at this point, where the TV deals are lucrative enough that it doesn't matter that nobody's at the games, right? But like I've never in my life, other than the one year they had Paul Pierce. It looked like maybe a couple people were at the games in the playoffs anyway.
Right.
Like outside of that, I've never. I'll joke about how we could never talk about the Wizards in Baltimore because nobody in Baltimore cares about the Wizards, and the first thing I'll say afterwards is nobody in D.C. cares about the Wizards.
What's amazing, right. What's amazing about and I mean I do watch a little bit. I don't watch much. I do watch. I try to watch a game a week somehow, some way, like 20 minutes. Golden State's playing somebody, it's late, and I'm writing, and I'll put it on. But it's mostly white noise. But it's really amazing how good these dudes are, how they shoot the ball.
Oh, it's incredible. I agree with that. Yeah, it's different.
It's incredible. Yeah. Like, now, I don't understand. There was I don't know, I don't get this. There was a huge following of Clippers people there last night.
That's weird.
There were
That's weird.
The whole lower deck was, now I say filled. There were a couple of hundred Clippers fans there.
I mean,
now is that because of Kawhi Leonard or I don't even know why, but there were a lot of people there. It was weird.
I don't get that whatsoever. I don't get it at all. I could not possibly tell you what that's about. All right, let's talk about...
The only thing that Bradley Beal couldn't do on the last thing was foul a guy.
Well, it
just don't foul him.
Drew, I mean this. I didn't watch. I don't care. I just know that they blew a huge lead.
No, I didn't bet it, so I'm happy.
Yeah, right. You're good. That's the way that it goes. Where are you as far as your level of surprise about Wink Martindale and the unspoken part? The part where they did it at 6 o'clock on a Friday night, the part where John Harbaugh still hasn't spoken to the media. Does any of that bother you?
I was going to write about I mean, I've written about the Wink thing. I'm going to write about the other stuff tomorrow, so I'm glad you brought it up. I would say this. First of all, I think that the fact that John hasn't spoken before the end of the season, or since the end of the season, would tell you 2 things. And I'm kind of hoping no big news breaks today so that this can be my, air quotes here, hot take for tomorrow. The fact that he hasn't talked yet to the media tells me there is definitely some unfinished business going on. That's what I think. He doesn't have the answers because he knows what the questions are going to be. He doesn't have the answers to them yet. So that would be number one. Do I think it's right or wrong that he hasn't spoken to the media yet since the season ended? Patently wrong. No question. He should be speaking to the media. That said, I think there are a lot of moving parts, and this goes back to what you and I just said, that we don't really know what's going on there.
Right.
Right? I think they were kind of waiting to see what happened, how Joe Ortiz got flushed out. Is he in? Is he out? I think they were waiting for that. I think they're waiting to find out what's going to happen with some of these other coordinator situations or other candidates, like Leftwich is an example of who I know now, I guess, is going to wind up in Jacksonville. Like, how do all of these moving parts, because you know this, one dude gets fired. When one guy gets fired, 6 people lose their job, and now there's 7 openings, and people are moving around. So I would say that that's what's holding them up. I also think Jon, after whatever it's been, I don't even know, 14 years, is probably, there was a time in Jon's career, kind of like, there was a time when you and I were together on the radio where we liked going down there.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That's fair.
Yeah,
it's fair to say that there was a time there was a time when you and I liked going to work the Super Bowl. We looked forward to it.
Yeah. It was, I mean,
and then as time went on and we got taken advantage of, and you know what, why don't you guys just do 6 to 6? We'll do it. We'll do it because what the hell else are we going to do? Right? Like Springsteen. When Ed, whatever his name is, said, why do you keep touring when you're 64? Springsteen said, what else am I going to do?
Right.
Like, what else are we going to do? We're there. We're at the Super Bowl. You want us to work 6 to 6 in Phoenix? We'll do it. Or 4 to 4, as it turned out. We'll do it. But, like, after a while, we got tired of it. We got tired of getting taken advantage of, got tired of being harangued about meal money, and we just got tired of it. So I would submit that Jon might be tired of it. And that's not to say that he's right for delaying it or kicking the can down the road. But there's also a time when Jon liked it. Like, I'll go out there and I'll explain to these guys what we're all about. And now he's realized, and you can blame the internet for this and social media, he's now realized that no matter what he says to the media, he's going to get crapped on by the fans. So it's just a short way of saying that could be a component of this, that Jon's just kind of tired of doing it. Because Steve's definitely tired of doing it, right?
Oh, I mean, I assume they all are.
Right, right. Now, again,
there's no
you got to
winning.
you got to kind of suck it up, and you got to do it.
You have to do it, exactly.
You got to do it, right. But my overview from this 35,000 feet above sea level is, my overview is they don't have anything to say yet. And Jon is, now, maybe if Kevin Byrne were there, they would have said that already.
Right.
They would have said, and Kevin used to do this privately. Kevin would call you or I or bump into us over there and say, hey, real quick, just so you know, because I heard you on the radio yesterday pissing on Jon. Listen, we're going to do something. We just don't have anything yet to talk about. But when we do, we'll get everybody together. Got it? Got it, Kevin. Now, I haven't been around long enough to know, or recently to know, if that's kind of the way it still is with Kevin not there, but that's something Kevin would have done. He would have said, hey, listen, take it easy. We're going to do something. I'll give you this information. I can remember Billick specifically saying to me, and I think you might not have been there at the time, telling me something about Chris McAllister and saying, if you ever repeat that on the air, I'm done with you.
Right.
But I want you to know, because I heard you say something on the air, I want you to know this is what happened with McAllister. Now, how do you feel? And I said, I feel like a horse's ass. He said, correct. Now you know. So you don't have to say it anymore. But don't ever say that I told you this.
Right, of course.
And I'm like, okay, I got you.
Right, of course.
So I think, so that's the answer to number one. Number two, am I surprised about Wink? I'm not really, because I think we all sort of know what happened. They didn't really fire him. Wink said, how am I, where am I at? I got 1 year left. Where am I at? And, Jon said, we're not sure. We're not sure where we are. Like, we're going through the paperwork and figuring it out and trying to figure out how we lost 6 games in a row and how you couldn't get your defense to make a stop at the end of the year. And I think Wink probably just said, look, I might only do this 5 more years. I need to know what's going on. And he knew, because there's 7 openings, he could probably go to Minnesota and write his own ticket, or go to Jacksonville and write his own ticket. And I just think it became, I'm not so sure it wasn't totally dissimilar to what happened in Maryland.
I don't.
Where I think Jon didn't want to fire Wink.
Right.
Flat out say, Wink, you're fired. But I also don't think John really saw Wink as the long-term guy any longer. And look, here's the dirty little secret, and I think a lot of people know this, but I know you know this. Wink got the job solely because of Terrell Suggs.
Right. That's the
Suggs is the guy that campaigned time and time and time again for Wink, and went in and beat the drum for Wink. And I'm not suggesting John didn't really want Wink, but Suggs was the guy who went in and pounded the table and said, "This is the guy we want to lead the defense." I don't know that that's germane to this or not, but I'm not saying John didn't want Wink. I just think the time was right. I really do. I don't think it's strange that it happened then. I think there was an evaluation that went on, and it might have been a little bit of pride where Wink was like, well, you're questioning me?
Right.
Do you see the injuries we had?
Right.
You're questioning me?
What was I supposed to do?
Those guys all have huge egos, and I'm not really that surprised about it. And I can't imagine that Greg Roman's going to be gone now when we're, 3-4 weeks removed from the end of the season. But I wouldn't be totally shocked if next Wednesday John had a State of the Ravens thing and said, "Hey, this morning we let Greg Roman go." That wouldn't shock me.
It wouldn't shock me to your point, right? Why would it be any different now than it was last? You know what I mean? Why now, right? But why was it last Friday with Wink Martindale, right? Why did it take 2 weeks to get to that point? Nothing would shock me. That's sort of what I said. I don't think there's anything. The reason why I'm not bothered is because I just don't think these things are controversial. I've tried to say this a million times. Coaching changes happen in football. They just do. They happen in a lot of places. And it's for any number of reasons. To your point, contracts, to just, there being two people that for whatever reason really can't get along, and you need those people to be able to get along, and they can't. Sometimes it's acknowledging, hey, look, we expected more out of you. And right now, I do think the Wink Martindale conversation has to include dude, what is going on that Yannick Ngakoue was nothing when you had him, and everywhere else he's been an unbelievably high-level football player.
Sure.
What is going on that Zadarius Smith was so much better when he got to Green Bay than when he was here? What is going on that Matt Judon was a more dominant figure when he was in New England than when he was here? What is that? And is that what's best? And the quick answer is, well, it's the system, right? Those systems allow for those guys to do one thing, and we don't do that here. And at some point, as I was just saying, I think you got to acknowledge that the way that the NFL has changed, you can talk about the analytics and the ability to have a strong secondary, but in terms of needing to get a stop at the end of the game, needing one stop from your defense at the end of the game, no matter what the system was that got you there, no matter what happened during the course of the game, how good your defense was, how many of these games are coming down to, can you get one stop? And the way to do that is not typically with a secondary. There's not a whole lot that a secondary can do when the other team has 4 downs to try to go win the game. You almost have to get that from having an impact edge rusher on the field who makes a play in the backfield. And takes them out of, instead of having 1st and 10, they've got 2nd and 18. And that seems to be about the only way that you can win those types of games. And I do think that walks in line with, was this system what was best for us to try to win these games at the end where we needed one stop to try to win the game? And I think that's a relevant conversation.
1,000,000% agree. And I would say to you, that the likelihood of the exact that 90 seconds that you just spewed out is exactly what John said, exactly meaning paraphrasing, what John might have said to Wink. Okay, we're doing our coaching evaluations. Come on in, Greg, blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Come on in, whoever. Chris Hewitt, come on in. Okay, Wink, come on in. And replay your 90 seconds, and Wink saying to John, dude, if you don't want me, I'll roll.
Right. This is what I do, and I don't know if you know, I'm pretty good at it. Right.
And look, and it's really funny you brought this up because I think it's very relevant. This is, and again, I'm not comparing high school golf coaching to NFL coaching. I'm comparing coaching in general, rules in general, in any sport, anywhere. Every coach has nuances, right? My nuance in golf for junior golfers is stay away from caffeine. It's no good for you. You don't drink caffeine when you play golf at Calvert Hall. And if you don't like that, and if drinking soda means more to you than playing golf, then drink soda.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I'm not budging on that. And the athletic director who takes over for Lou may come to me and say, dude, that's a stupid rule and you got to get rid of it. And then we're going to have a problem.
Right. Correct. Because
Like,
it's your thing. Yep. 100%.
And I'm just using that as one small, I mean, I've got a lot of practice things in junior golf and a lot of golf application things that I won't budge on. Like, you think hitting it 300 yards is important. You're right. What's more important is you getting the ball up in there from 60 yards. No, it's not, Coach. Yes, it is. And if you can't get the ball up in there from 60 yards, I don't care how far you hit it, you're not playing for me. Like, we have those things.
Yep.
And I think what you described is very, very much a possibility that John said to Wink, help me answer these questions if I get them from Steve.
Right.
When I go down there, if I get this question from Eric or Steve, give me an answer.
Yep. How
did Ngakoue go have 12 sacks somewhere else and look like Roderick, the other run linebacker we had once who was terrible?
Roderick Green. Yeah, right. Roderick Green.
Like, how did it, explain it to me? Just, you may have a very, very good explanation for it. And as a coach, you probably should know this answer. And like, how could we not get off the field at the end of these games? Explain it to me so that I have an answer for Steve. And if that happened, and Wink might have definitely just said, like, dude, just let me roll then.
Right.
If you don't think if you don't think I'm right for you,
yep.
And money is all relative, right? It's easier for you to say that when you've made millions of dollars.
Of course. And when you know you're going to get another job somewhere. Right. Exactly right. Like,
so,
look.
And that's why I went back to at the beginning. Like, I don't think John walked into Wink and said, you're fired. I really don't. I do believe that when John said, and it's funny because he uses productive, after several days of productive meetings,
right. Yeah.
Well, they weren't very productive for Wink.
How productive could they be? Correct.
But I do think
a really good conversation. I was like, I think we'd be better without you. And
it's like your girlfriend saying, it's like your ex-girlfriend saying to all the girls to dance. Glenn and I had a lot of productive conversations over the last 3 days, and I decided to date someone else.
I decided I like Jim better.
Right, yeah. It was productive for you, but not for him. But I think other than that, the nuance of that word, I think John was telling the truth about, we had several days of meetings, and it kind of came out in the wash.
Right.
And I think your thing was perfect. Like, all of these things have been going on, and all we wanted to know is, like, A, do you have an explanation? B, how do we change it?
Right. And is it something? Are you willing to listen? Are you willing to hear us say, if we pay Lamar Jackson, we might not be able to have a strong one-on-one corner on the outside at all times. We might not have the money to do that. So are you willing to listen to the idea that we might have to go about generating pressure in a different way? And if that's not, if you say, no, this is what I do, you have me, this is what then you just might need to do it somewhere else. You just might need to go, as you point out, Jacksonville's going to have a lesser paid quarterback for the next 4 years, right? Like, maybe go down there and they've got some more money to spend on cornerbacks for you, right? Like, maybe whatever it is. All right,
I believe it. And by the way, the Friday thing, the news dump thing, I don't really put much stock in that. I think that, I know that's the fancy term we all use, and I used it on Saturday morning, like, hey, it was a news dump. But I think the internet has ended the theme of news dump. Now, I will say,
I disagree with that.
Okay, but I will say this, and to counter that, I do think, and my data would show this, my own data and my own business would show, people are less engaged on the weekend.
Correct.
That is definitely true.
1,000% less engaged. With anything that isn't the game itself. The game itself.
If we dump this Friday at 6,
yep,
the talk shows can't talk about it till Monday.
Yep. And by that time, there's a million other things for them to talk about it. And,
right, correct.
And by the way,
I do think that matters.
All we talked about on Monday was overtime. Like, that's all we talked about was overtime.
So I do think that that's relevant.
Yep.
I don't know, and I would say this with all due respect to everybody who does it for a living, including you and I.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure the teams put a whole lot of emphasis anymore on what is said about them and what they hear, because they have their own platform now to get everything out the way they want it to get out. But and it's different, I think, than it was 15 years ago when we would walk into the building, and if they won, everybody was like, "Hey, man, good to see you. Want a piece of pizza?" And if they lost, they said, "Dude, you kind of hard on us today, weren't you?" Like they used to listen every day. I mean, they had a person employed.
Correct.
They had a person employed to listen to the radio shows.
Correct. And to this point, Twitter might be even more important than what's happening on a talk show in town. I just don't know that it's the same thing. But I still think that in their mind, they'd rather not. On a Thursday, there's a chance that sneaks in for a couple of seconds on the stupid Skip Bayless show, right? And the Skip Bayless show starts some, is there an uproar in Baltimore? And they just sort of say, if we can avoid that, if we don't have to have that be something, because there's no chance, but by Monday they're talking about it on the Skip Bayless show. If we can avoid that, because then when that happens, they tweet it out and dumb people on Twitter run. The dumb people on Twitter were attacking Ryan Mink this weekend. There is no more pro-Ravens person on the planet than Ryan Mink, right? Like, we're so dumb. We're just so dumb as human beings that they say, how do we limit how many dumb people can run with this? How do we limit that in any way? And I think that might be the way to go about doing it. All right, let's cover a couple things really quickly. One, Drew's appearance this week is also brought to you by Glory Days Grill. We all love Glory Days Grill. Drew, of course, loves Glory Days Grill, maybe even more than I do, which is saying something. Because I love Glory Days Grill. The smoky thigh wings they are an act of God. I'm telling you, there is something about the smoky thigh wings. I never need normal wings again in my life. I can just eat the smoky thigh wings at Glory Days Grill for the rest of my life. They're that good. The house-made meatloaf, the grilled meatloaf sandwich, the short rib grilled cheese, all still available for a limited time because they're about to change the seasonal menu. So if you haven't taken advantage of that, I would get there very soon. GloryDaysGrill.com. Quickly, we, in a weird way, and unlike anything we've ever done before, it took a few different trips, but we got everything down to Helping Up Mission on Monday.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you.
We didn't. By the way, that's a fact. Drew and I did not even see each other. I had a legitimate 12-foot trailer stuffed so far that, honest to God, we're like, are we going to be able to get everything in this? And I know that you had a bus of stuff that you brought down.
I had a bus from Calvert Hall, and I didn't even know this until you remember. We took all the stuff upstairs and stored it at Glory Days.
Yep.
And I had my Calvert Hall team come over Sunday and load it up into a Calvert Hall bus so that I would have it ready to go on Monday morning. And I didn't even know this. I have no idea who gave these to us. I don't know how they got where they got. I have no idea. I had 2 garbage bags full of brand new dress shoes.
Oh, I don't remember who gave us the dress shoes either.
Probably $2,000 worth of dress shoes.
Wow. I don't remember who that was either, honestly.
Blue, black, gray, great-looking, brown. Perfect. Brand new. Wow. Don't know where they came from. Have no idea who gave them to us. Nothing.
Wow. That's remarkable. That's really remarkable.
I know.
And I know your friends at Free State Electric brought a ton of stuff as well on Monday. I mean, just an insane. Thank you all. I know we didn't get to do the formal sort of event with the videos and the pictures that we normally do. And we like doing that so you guys see it. But this is a promise. I promise you these things are getting to the people that need them. That is the way they operated at Helping Up Mission. By the way, did he show you the women's shelter?
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's immaculate.
Awesome. I had already seen it, but it's awesome.
It's immaculate, man. It is crazy.
No doubt.
With that. It's unbelievable. So thank you all for that. I wanted to make sure we talked about it. And I'll give you one Would You Rather Wednesday because I got to get to a break here before the top of the hour. But I'll give you one of the Would You Rather Wednesday scenarios. Are you at all familiar with the people that Patrick Mahomes surrounds himself with in his life? Are you?
Yeah, well, I know. I've seen his girlfriend and his crazy brother. That's all I know. Is that who you're talking about?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So would you rather? I have good news. The Ravens are hosting next year's AFC Championship game.
Okay, that's great news.
And you can sit in a suite at the game right next to Patrick Mahomes' wife and brother.
Okay.
Or you're stuck in your car listening to the game on the radio.
Boy, that's a good one.
Yeah.
See, I guess I would say this. I'm a blender. I would almost relish the fact to be next to them.
What? Relish?
I'm good. I'll sit next to them. They better hope the Ravens don't win.
I mean, dude.
I'll sit next to them. I'm good.
You and I are not in line on this one. There's just no way. And it's really just the types of people that they are. Dude, when she sent that tweet this week, I said, oh, that's who you are. That's who you are.
Right, but I'll sit with him. I'm good.
I couldn't do it. And I think a lot of people are trying to get around this. Well, like, I could just sneak off. No, you're being forced to sit right there with the two of them for the entirety of the game. There's no escape. There's no, it's a big suite. I can go. No. You're trying to get around it. You have to sit right there with the two of them the entire time. In their conversations, in their antics, in all of it. At some point, they're going to ask you, hey, can you hold my phone while I dance? You're going to...
Oh, I could do that, too. Whoops, there it went. Sorry about that.
You're allowed to say no if they ask you to hold their phone.
And then it becomes awkward. And then it becomes super uncomfortable because you're stuck with these insane people. Insane, bat-ass people for the entire time.
I will not be a part of your jackassery. No, I will not hold your phone.
Yeah, I'm okay. And then you're just sitting there, right? And then it's just uncomfortable. That's it. It's just uncomfortable the entire time. Yeah. You still have to deal with these people. You don't just get to get away with them or think that you're teaching them a lesson or something along those lines. These are not reasonable people. These are not people that are like you and I. They're people that believe the earth revolves around them. That nothing, she literally said, I just wish I could do what I want to do. Without being attacked. Like, and it's just so telling. It's so, I want to be able to do everything that I want to do without there being any repercussions for my actions. If I want to go spray champagne all over everyone, I should just be able to do that, and nobody gets to say boo about it, right?
Right. That was at some point, and I realized, like, maybe she's a good kisser, that Patrick's got to say to her, like, hey,
yeah, what are we doing, right?
Got to ease up a little bit. I'm the one making all the money, by the way.
I'm hoping
not you.
Case. All right. What's going on at Drew'sMorningDish.com?
Not a lot. We're just getting ready for this big week for the U.S. national team, so I'm excited. Thursday night.
They're really playing that match on Sunday at 3:00. They're really doing that.
They're playing on Paramount Plus.
I know. Well, that part, I mean, I'm kind of used to that at this point. But they're doing it at 3:00. There's a
I forget the order, but is it Honduras, Canada?
Yeah. And wait, no, is it Honduras? I thought it was El Salvador first.
El Salvador, Canada, Honduras, or yeah, that sounds right.
It's definitely Canada is the Sunday match for sure.
Canada's the away game.
Right.
I think El Salvador and Honduras are the two home games.
It's El Salvador on Thursday or tomorrow, and then Honduras next week.
I mean, they got everybody back except for Reyna. He's the only one missing. Tim Weah's back. They left John Brooks out of the team, which is kind of weird. But they've pretty much got their full team, and anything less than 6 points is a disaster.
I hear you.
For them.
I hear you.
Now, it wouldn't crush them, but it's unacceptable if they don't get at least 6 points.
I hear you. This is still U.S. soccer that we're talking about.
And if they get 9, they're probably in, I would think.
Yep, this is still
if they win all 3, they're probably in.
If they win all 3, they should be good. 100%.
I would think.
Yep.
Right?
Right.
What do they have right now? 15 or 17? I don't even know. Anyway.
All right. Anyway.
So that's what I'm excited about, and I was kind of right there last week. San Francisco kind of kept me from going 4-0, but I'm looking forward to this weekend.
All right, very good.
I think the games are going to be interesting. I don't think Kansas City is as much of a blowout winner as people think.
Okay. All right. I hear you. I have not decided where I'm leaning on that one, but we'll talk about it more. All right. Drew Forrester at It's a Hooded 4-Iron on Twitter, Drew'sMorningDish.com. Appreciate it, pal. See you next week. Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil helps extend engine life. Visit your local Jiffy Lube service center. Ask for Mobil 1. We got a busy second hour of the show on tap. Nendah Tarke from Coppin State, the great Jon Miller, and Trevelin Queen, who just made his NBA debut a couple weeks back. All that coming up. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Duffy's Garage is a family-owned and operated car care facility in beautiful Baldwin, Maryland. An authorized Maryland inspection station and Napa Pro Care Center with ASE-certified techs. Tell them that Glenn Clark sent you and receive 10% off your service with a max discount of $150. You gotta trust where you take your car, so take it to where I take mine. Duffy's Garage in Baldwin. Duffy'sGarageMD.com.
The latest issue of Press Box is available now, and it's our very special annual Best of issue. On the cover, we celebrate Justin Tucker as our Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year, honoring his historic on-field achievements, but also the unprecedented relationship he shared with Baltimore. Inside, we recognize the top people, performances, and moments of 2021, including Cedric Mullins' incredible season and the dominance of local Paralympic athletes. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The biggest pro wrestling stars today and all time all have one thing in common. You've heard them on Jobbing Out.
Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks.
Thanks for having us, man. Appreciate it.
The great Kurt Angle.
Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Matt Riddle.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man.
The champ, Drew McIntyre.
Oh, thank you for having me.
The great Ron Simmons.
Keith Lee.
Appreciate you guys having me, man.
Bill Goldberg.
My pleasure.
Charlotte.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mick Foley is with us.
This is the greatest name for a wrestling show I've ever heard.
MJF.
I'm glad you're happy I'm on this show because I'm freaking miserable.
Le
champion.
Chris Jericho.
Le champion.
AJ, Aaron, Brandon, and Glenn are talking pro wrestling every week on Jobbing Out. Find it at PressBoxOnline.com/radio, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
Stay tuned. Your chance to win $1 million is coming up. Probably not from us. You're listening to Glenn Clark Radio.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue on a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of the show. If you missed it on Monday night, Stan the Fan Charles, Ross Grimsley caught up with Don Stanhouse. That is available right now. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Click on the videos tab or go to PressBoxOnline.com/video and you can find it there. Great chat they had with the great Don Stanhouse. All right, let's go through Would You Rather Wednesday. We got a lot to do this hour. Number one, Would You Rather Wednesday for today. Would you rather the Baltimore Ravens indeed hire one of their known candidates for defensive coordinator, whether that's Chris Richard, Joe Cullen, Joe Witt, any of the guys that are out there that we know are legitimately candidates for the job, or they stun everyone and instead they hire Ed Reed for the job?
Ed Reed is my favorite football player of all time. He has to show me that he's been a defensive coordinator anywhere and can handle the job.
He's had some defensive coaching jobs. It's
right,
not,
but he's never been a defensive
okay,
coordinator.
The idea that if they would promote from internally, it wouldn't necessarily be someone who's a defensive coordinator.
No, that's true. That's true.
I don't think becoming a defensive coordinator requires you to have been a defensive coordinator before.
Well, yeah, yeah. I guess I don't know. Ed Reed's had a couple of defensive jobs. He's been a secondary. Wasn't he like a secondary coach for the Jets or the Texans or something?
Bills,
like that?
I believe.
Bills.
Yes.
You know what? Screw it. Give me Ed Reed.
Okay, you just changed your mind that quickly.
Yeah, I love Ed Reed. He's a great defensive mind. He's one of the best players of all time at any position, and he has had defensive coaching jobs in the past. I think it would bring excitement to the team, and nobody studies video better than he and Ray Lewis. So I would imagine that he would instill that into his team. Give me Ed Reed. He's
currently working as chief of staff at the University of Miami, so not like a direct coaching job, but involved, obviously, very much with the coaching staff. This one's interesting. It's interesting kind of how split it is. From John Proctor, love me some Ed Reed. I'd be fine seeing him around again. From Mark, Ed, but just for fun. From KZ, not Reed. He's a great player, maybe the greatest Raven ever. Ooh, those are fighting words. But those type of players are usually not the best coaches. A lot of them are not. Some of them are better suited not being a head coach, but in a more personal role. From Skip, give me a known candidate, but the Reed choice is intriguing. This, I think, is the best argument, the one that's made by Ian. I'd be happy with Richard, Cullen, or Witt. I don't want to have to fire Ed Reed at any point. This is always the best argument for why you don't hire one of your own great players to a job like this, is because at some point you might have to fire them, and that creates a great deal of awkwardness, like a significant amount of awkwardness within that relationship, and you fracture it for the fan base, and it becomes uncomfortable. You don't get to see them around anymore. It's the best argument you can make for why you would not do that.
Or what if he's so good he leaves for a head coaching position? And then
Sure. I mean, like, but then it's the awkwardness of, like, at some point he comes in as a head coach of another team or whatever. It's a far better scenario than having to fire someone, right? Like, well, you can hope that he just steps aside on his own at some point and just sort of says, "Hey, I'm bored. I'm Ed Reed. I don't have to do this. I don't really want to do it anymore," right? Like, you hope that it would be less acrimonious, but there is absolutely the possibility that, you would have to fire him. And that's awkward. There's no getting around for that. It's an awkward thing, and it's the best argument for why you never hire a legendary, like an iconic legendary player. You have to fire Anthony Weaver, fine. You have to fire Anthony Weaver, right? Like, there are some people. I like Anthony Weaver a great deal, but that's more because I got to know him as a dude. As a player, he was just a guy, right? Like, if they were to hire Jim Leonard away from Wisconsin, and they had to fire Jim Leonard, I know there's a bizarre percentage of Ravens fans that treat Jim Leonard like he's the greatest Raven that ever lived when he was here for 20 seconds, right? Like, and was a okay player. Like, he was a good player, but he wasn't special. He was a good player. So what? So you fire Jim Leonard. Life will go on, right? You fire Ed Reed, it becomes really, really difficult to overcome that type of thing. It's just not. It's not impossible. It took a long time for, say, Ralph Friedgen to come back to the University of Maryland, right? But, like, at some point you were able to get him back. But you just don't want that. You don't want there to be a frozen relationship between your favorite team and a great player. It's a tough thing.
Not to mention, how would John Harbaugh? I mean, John Harbaugh will be definitely part of the hiring process. It wouldn't just be Eric DeCosta.
Right. Yeah.
Does John Harbaugh want somebody that's going to come in and take all the limelight? And that's not to say that.
I don't think that's that. I don't think that would be a remote concern. The limelight means
that was the wrong word. Does he view his celebrity as a distraction?
Yeah, I don't really know. In what way?
I mean, I don't know. In any way where
but that's what I meant. Like, what is the way that it's a distraction to John Harbaugh doing his job?
Ed Reed being part of your coaching staff, and maybe their defense is number 1 in the league, and everybody's calling for Ed Reed to replace. You know how Ravens fans are. Ed Reed should replace John Harbaugh on the
John
sideline.
Harbaugh has to deal with idiots right now. Why does he care about some idiot thinking that somebody else should be the? You know what I mean?
Just food for fodder, sir.
There were people that wanted Rex Ryan to be the coach once upon a time. There were a lot of people that thought the Ravens screwed up. And better not lose Rex Ryan. He's going to go be brilliant somewhere else. And, he took 2 teams to AFC championship games. And
now he's at home watching feed on his
100%, right? Like, they've been through this. There's this notion that, like, someone is so fragile. There was this thought once upon a time that John Harbaugh wouldn't hire someone who was a former head coach, right? Like, couldn't do that. Until he did. And then he hired a bunch of them. And it was fine. Everything was all right. No worries whatsoever. So I don't buy into that. But the best argument I can make is that, you just don't do it because at some point you might have to fire someone. You don't want to have to fire someone who means so much to you and your community. It's just not something you want to have to do. Continue to get me your responses at Glenn Clark Radio. We'll dive back into it as the morning rolls along. It's been a nice couple of weeks for our next guest as Coppin State has really gotten things turned around here of late. They always play this brutal non-conference schedule, but now in the conference play, they've won 3 of their last 4, including his dramatic half-court buzzer beater against Morgan State and then another game winner to wrap an insane comeback on Monday night against Howard. It's a pleasure to welcome Nendah Tarke to GCR. Nendah, it's Glenn and Paul. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Oh, hang on a second, Nendah. We got to get something fixed. I apologize. We'll get that fixed really quickly, and then we'll get back to Nendah Tarke. It's just the phone is sitting a certain way that you just got to make sure it's fixed, and then we'll pull Nendah Tarke back up. And there we go. Nendah, sorry about that. How are you, man?
I'm sorry?
You there, man? Apologies. We had a bit of a technology issue there. I appreciate you taking the time for us this morning. Hey, and then to tell me about these last couple of weeks, man. You know, like you guys go through this gauntlet as you always do at the start of the season, and everything's crazy. What has clicked as you've gotten into conference play that you guys have really started feeling good?
We're just trying to come together as a team, game by game. I feel like in the beginning of the season, we didn't really play to our potential. It's a new team, a lot of new pieces, so we're on a learning curve. But as we enter conference play, we're still trying to get better every day. But we're starting to hit a stride, and we're starting to maximize what we can be as a team.
Nendah, you take that shot. Let's go back to the Morgan State game. 10 times, right? You had the same situation, same scenario. You take the exact same shot. How many of them are going in?
Oh, 10?
Man.
No. Oh, no. I was.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. You're taking 10. Sorry. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You really have that Steph Curry range, huh?
Nah, I'm realistic. I'd say maybe one.
Maybe you think that was the one. When you released that ball, one, were you certain that you had released it in time? And two, did you know out of your hands, oh, my God, I just did that?
Well, for one, I knew I released it in time. I didn't feel like rushed. I know it was only like 1.5 seconds, but I'm pretty good with my internal clock. But then I thought it was off to the left, actually.
Okay.
Because I was moving to the right, I had to put it to the left a little bit because of my momentum. And I thought I missed it left, but I knew the distance was good enough. But I just thought, it was missed left and we're going to overtime.
I mean, thankfully it wasn't. Thankfully that was inaccurate, right?
Yeah, that was crazy. No backboard either.
You've taken, obviously playing in high school, playing, wherever you've been playing. Had you ever, nothing that could compare to doing it right against Morgan State in a Coppin Morgan game, but had you ever had anything like that in your life? Like, had you ever hit a shot to win a game anywhere that was anything similar to that?
No, not even close.
Yeah.
That one ranks pretty high for me. Just because it's funny because I take that shot in practice, and you always say I'm gonna do it in the game, but you never really think the opportunity's gonna
right.
Come. So then the opportunity was just there, and I was like, let me just go for it.
I mean, bro, you'll have that for the rest of your life, man. You'll be 60 years old, and your grandkids will be like, were you any good at basketball? And you're like, it's really funny you say that. Let me show you something.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I've watched it a lot of times over.
I mean, bro, I don't blame you. If I had done something like that, I would be the same exact way, man. Anytime somebody was like, hey, Nendah, how's your day going? I'd be like, funny question. Have you seen this?
Yeah. I don't really try to bring it up, but a lot of people bring it up to me.
I mean,
so then I have to watch it a lot too because they show me, and it's like, I did it.
Dude. I mean, it's gonna be eternal, man. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen, and for it to happen against Morgan of all teams, man, it's just so cool. Nendah Tarke is with us here on GCR. Nendah, and then let's talk about Monday night too, right? Holy crap, you're playing Howard. Things are not going your way. You're down by, and it only felt like about $1 billion. I think it was only 26 was the number.
26, yeah.
Yeah, 26 points. It felt like it was 1,000. What happens during a game like that? At what point do you say oh no, we're not just showing fight, we're winning this game?
It all started with the coaches. They didn't lose faith in us. They didn't lose confidence in us because us being in that hole was a lot of a lot of it was self-inflicted. We were giving their shooters open shots. We weren't following. We weren't executing the game plan as well as we could have, and we put ourselves in the hole. But we know that, as you said, in the beginning of the season, we had a gauntlet and a lot of close games. We lost. We were on the wrong side of a lot of close games, and we just knew, we're battle tested, so we're resilient, and we're gonna fight. So at the end, we just knew if we just stuck with it, go on little runs here and there, we were gonna get back into the game. And it all started with picking up our defensive intensity.
Yeah,
and once we did that, we were rolling.
And that's how you finish it off at the end, obviously, right? You make it
steal.
make a defensive
yeah.
play, you turn it into a game-winning hoop, man. Like, you're on quite the little heater right now, Nendah Tarke. You don't happen to know what, like, the lottery numbers are going to be this week, dude.
Unfortunately, I don't.
Man, it has
I wish I did, though.
been a hell of a couple of weeks. Nendah Tarke with us on GCR. I want to learn a couple things about you. I think a lot of people got to know your brother, obviously, and you know, and his rise here after he showed up at Coppin. Tell me about what it's like, you know, the two of you growing up and playing basketball. He's a couple years older. What was that relationship like, and why did Coppin make sense for both of you guys? As, you know, you're both guys that obviously, like, you know, he clearly had his eyes set on playing in the NBA. I'm sure you have the same concept.
Yeah, that is the case. Well, starting when we were younger, we always used to play, like, one-on-one in the front, or, like, we'd roll a sock up into a ball and, like, shoot into a hamper, like, different stuff like that. So we were always kind of just, like, around basketball. But we never really played on a team because we didn't know anything about that. So everything we did was just, like, with each other. And then coming here, it was like, okay, we have the opportunity to play with each other at a high level, so why not try to go for it? You know, it was definitely a fun experience. And then playing under Coach Dixon, he tries to maximize everybody's potential as a player. So us coming together was something that I'm definitely never going to forget.
I did want to talk about that because, you know, the people around here, they know Juan Dixon as a player, right? Like, you know, this unbelievable career locally at Calvert Hall, on to Maryland, into the NBA. But I still don't know that people around here fully know Juan as a coach because, unfortunately, as I'm sure you felt, not everyone gets out to Coppin State, which is a mistake. What should people that only know Juan as a player know about him as a coach and what it is that he's doing with you guys over there at Coppin?
Well, I mean, firstly, he's a great person. He looks out for you off the court, on the court, in any way he can. He's really invested in players' development more than anything. He wants you to come here and become a better player and become a better man and become just better in all aspects of life. And he stresses that a lot. I feel like on the coaching side, he wants to win real bad. And he's going to try to put our team in a position to win and our players in a position to be successful while winning.
I mean, right now, you guys, you know, obviously ended up making that run to the division title a year ago. You're off to a pretty good start in conference play this year. Got to feel pretty good about your chances going up against the rest of the MEAC the rest of the way, right?
Yeah, we're always feeling good. We know that we're a talented team, deep team. 1 through 14 can all play major minutes. You know, as long as we do what we need to do on the defensive end and offensively, we know we have a good chance to win this thing. But it's really day by day. We're not looking too far ahead.
Yep.
You know, we're staying where our feet are.
No doubt,
so
man.
At the end of the day, we're just gonna keep working in practice and keep getting better.
Nendah Tarke, what can we plug for you social media-wise? Where can Coppin fans be giving you a follow? Twitter, Instagram, anything like that?
Yeah, I guess you can follow me on Instagram. It's my name, Nendah.Tarke.
Okay.
And then Twitter is the same.
Twitter is the same. Search that and it'll come up with. Is it at any Nenders with 2 S's and an underscore? Is that the handle?
Oh yeah, that's my Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
I've been meaning to change that actually. So yeah, for now it's Nenders.
But just search Nendah Tarke and you'll find him. Is the point? You'll find him if you give it a search.
Yep.
Hey Nendah, congratulations, man. You know what a crazy couple of weeks it's been, and I can only imagine how much fun it's been for you being a part of some crazy moments. Looking forward to seeing what's up for you guys the rest of the way. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes for us. Best of luck, and let's talk again soon. All right.
Thank you. Yes, sir. We will.
Nendah Tarke from Coppin State. If you haven't seen the shot, we'll try to get that shared up on Twitter. I mean, just insane. Half-court buzzer beater in the biggest rivalry game against Morgan State. Just bonkers shot against Morgan 2 weekends ago, and then the dramatic late steal and three-point play to finish a 26-point comeback against Howard on Monday night. It's been a really cool couple of weeks for Nendah Tarke. Let's squeeze in one more for Would You Rather Wednesday before we grab a break. We'll do the one that we talked about with Drew. Would you rather, next year's AFC Championship game, you're sitting in a suite, but you're sitting with Mrs. Mahomes and Patrick Mahomes' brother. I don't even like saying his name because I don't want to give the guy attention. Or you're stuck in your car listening on the radio.
Is there alcohol? If I'm in a suite, I'm assuming that there's alcohol.
Yeah, but not you can't drunk your way through it. Is the point? Anything that allows you to cheat your way through it cannot be done. You may have a beer, but you cannot you can't get drunk to try to avoid the situation.
Well, it wouldn't be.
The point of it is the situation is the situation. There's no getting around it in any way.
So it wouldn't be to avoid the situation. It would be to attack it head on.
It's the same concept. You, as you, have to deal with the situation.
Me as me.
Yes, there is no changing anything. There is no anything along those lines.
Oh man, you know what? Put me in the suite. Put me in the suite because if the Ravens win that game. Oh my God! Would I be in hog heaven if if they lose? All right, I can just walk out after the loss. I don't have to stay there after the game, right? So if they lose, when they start doing their TikToks and squirting champagne all over everybody,
yeah, I think you're vastly underestimating what being around these human beings for any amount of time is like.
Glenn, I work in the restaurant industry,
understand that, but you can walk away. I'm telling you, don't get to do that. When you're working, you can walk away from the crazies. You can walk away.
For like 10 seconds.
That's fine. You can still walk away. I'm telling you, you are stuck with these people. You are in their trap. You're in their web. By the way, a lot of people aren't getting this. People are trying to cheat their way out of this. You are in their trap for 3+ hours.
I get to be in a suite at M&T Bank Stadium.
You keep hearing that.
For the AFC Championship game with the potential that the Ravens could win and I could be in hog heaven.
I will take that risk. You keep hearing all of those things. You're just conveniently ignoring the other part of it. You're conveniently ignoring
the two biggest jackasses in the Chiefs' kingdom are sitting next to me.
And people that aren't reasonable human beings, that are detached from reality, who any circumstance, if you were around, you would want to rip every hair out of your head being around them. It's torture. It's torture.
The other option is being stuck in your car on a snowed-in highway.
By the way, I'm just trying to. I literally put that in there to try to make you understand. You can't get out of it. I was trying to make people. You're not stuck there for hours upon hours. You just can't watch the game. You're just stuck having to listen to the game. I threw in the frozen highway part for the people that were going to try to cheat their way out of that one. This is the problem. By the way, you've all ruined this game, is really what's happened. I hate all of you because you just try to cheat your way out of every scenario because you don't want to deal with it, because you don't understand it's one scenario or the other. You keep trying to cheat your way out of it. Well, if I'm in a suite, I can just walk away. No, you can't just walk away. Well, I mean, I could be in the car, but I could have my phone and I could just watch the game. No, I'm telling you can't do that. I'm creating the parameters, and I have to consider all the ways you're going to cheat in a 200-character tweet. And I'm sick of that. I'm sick of you just not being – it's not you, Paul. I'm saying you, all of you, just not being able to play an effing game.
I think you are underestimating my sober ability to get on their level. And I
don't know what you mean. You mean get on their level? Be an unreasonable human? Be an awful person? Be a terrible, wretched individual?
To them, in response to them, I think I could do it. I think I 100% could do it. And I get to be in the suite at M&T Bank Stadium for the Ravens in the AFC Championship game.
I think you are. I just think you're vastly overestimating.
I'm willing to give it a shot.
The awfulness of these human beings and how much this is torture. This is legitimately torture. No. I have no interest in being tortured for 4 hours.
You also haven't met some of my ex-girlfriends.
That might be true. By the way, we've all got a thing or two. I'm not signing up for any more of it. I'm no longer interested in torture. Being by myself actually sounds great. I got 2 small kids. Yeah, I'd actually rather watch the game with them. But I got 2 small kids. Being by myself for a little while, is just all right.
You ever see that Family Guy episode where they flash to this guy and he's like, what a man in his 40s who's recently divorced looks like, and he's in this rundown apartment thing in one chair with his TV dinner, in his underwear watching TV, and he looks around at this shithole and he goes, "This is better."
Yeah, correct. I would rather this than deal with that ever again. Oh my God, that tweet! I had so many things I wanted to say about that tweet.
It was
yesterday.
absurd. It was absurd.
It's just You learn everything you need to know about a human being. I don't want to have to be responsible for my own actions. I don't understand why you guys think I should be responsible for the things that I do. I should just be able to do whatever I want. There should be no rules for me because I'm the wife of the quarterback. There should be no rules for me because I'm the brother of the quarterback and I do stupid TikTok dances. There should be no, I am more important than you are. You have to have rules. I don't. How do you not understand that? I'm entitled. The world is different for me. You peons, you peasants can do whatever you want to do, but I don't have to deal with those things. I'm not spending any. No.
She literally has done nothing.
Zero.
But
Zip.
From what I saw, she's a personal trainer, so that's cool.
I'm not saying she doesn't have a successful business. I don't think she probably has things to offer to the world.
Her claim to fame is she met Patrick Mahomes when she was 15.
Basically, yes.
And now they've been together ever since.
And God bless. I'm not. This is not. I do not shame. We don't kink shame, right? Whatever Patrick Mahomes. He fell in love with this person, right? Like, God bless. I have no interest, none, in spending any time at all with these human beings. I'm good.
I have no interest in listening to the Ravens play in the AFC Championship game on my radio.
Brother, I understand where you're coming from. If they lose, you're not going to remember it ever again. If they win, by the way, in hindsight, I'd probably rather listen to the AFC Championship game in 2008 than be sitting in the stands freezing my ass off in Pittsburgh, watching them completely be unable to move the ball down the field.
Watching Willis McGahee get decapitated.
Yes, lose his life in the middle of the field and only score because of a couple of questionable pass interference calls. The only reason the Ravens scored any points at all in that football game. If they win, there's going to be a Super Bowl, and I'll be just fine. I will not be stuck in my car for that, so life will go on. That's the way that it'll go.
You hate these people so much.
I cannot spend time with these human beings. And I think that those of you that are saying you can are just saying it because you don't want to think about it. You just are like, I can do it, until you're an hour in and you're just like, oh my God, I would literally rather be in my car listening to the game right now.
I've seen some things, Glenn.
I
think I can
trust me,
spend 3
Paul.
hours.
I've seen a lot of things too, and I've reached an age where I've said, I'm out. There will be no more. I cannot suffer that any longer. If you can tell me you're paying me money, you could tell me I will pay. It's the same question. Would you take a job paying well to be their personal assistant? Nope.
No.
That's the point.
No.
Anything that involves.
That's every day. You're talking 3 hours at the AFC
but
Championship
I'm talking
game.
about it's a 7-figure job. You got a 7-figure job being their personal assistant. Nope, not doing it. No chance in hell. And it's the same concept.
Could you do it for a year?
No.
For 7 figures and then get out?
Telling you, for my mental health, I can't do it.
No.
I can't do it. All right, when we come back in, someone who is a good person, the great Jon Miller, is going to join us. We're going to talk about the Hall of Fame. We're going to talk about, obviously, David Ortiz got in, but Barry Bonds, once again, did not. Today's show is also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy Football. Use the code PRESSBOX when you sign up, and we will match up to $100 on your first deposit with free money for you to play with. Not only the football this weekend, but basketball, hockey, and if they ever start baseball too. UnderdogFantasy.com or download the Underdog Fantasy Football app. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The latest issue of Press Box is available now, and it's our very special annual Best of issue. On the cover, we celebrate Justin Tucker as our Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year, honoring his historic on-field achievements, but also the unprecedented relationship he shared with Baltimore. Inside, we recognize the top people, performances, and moments of 2021, including Cedric Mullins' incredible season and the dominance of local Paralympic athletes. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farms stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
Need to hone your computer skills to boost your career? Or maybe you want an IT certification? CCBC Continuing Education has the courses and programs you need for a career in the computer field. And it's all tuition free. From the basics to specialized training, we have the classes you need, from hardware to programming to cybersecurity and so much more. It's your choice. It's your career. Call 443-840-4700 or visit ccbcmd.edu/computer training.
Window Depot Baltimore provides the highest quality Pro Via windows, doors, and siding for all budgets. The best is finally affordable. Call them today for a free in-home consultation at 410-941-3499. They also offer Zoom and FaceTime consultations in an effort to practice social distancing. A proud sponsor of the Tyus Bowser Show, you can find out more at WindowDepotBaltimore.com.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a wide range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
If you miss anything, don't forget that you can find whole shows later on Spotify, Apple, or Amazon Podcasts. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil helps extend engine life. Visit your local Jiffy Lube service center. Ask for Mobil 1. So, yeah, we haven't talked about the Hall of Fame yet this morning. It was predictable. David Ortiz did indeed get in. No one else did. And that's, of course, very significant for a few particular candidates who are on their final year on the ballot, namely Roger Clemens, Sammy Sosa, and, of course, maybe the greatest player in the history of baseball, Barry Bonds. They will. I did not realize the way that lines up is the next Today's Game era is this year, literally this December. The Today's Game era committee will take up this group of players, and I can't gauge if there's a consensus as to how, because it's made up of it's an interesting group. The last committee included Jim Palmer, for example. I don't know how they'll feel about these particular candidates, but I know it's nonsense, and it's unfair to David Ortiz, who is a deserving Hall of Famer. He's not as deserving as any of these guys are, but he's a deserving Hall of Famer and shouldn't have to basically apologize in his own acceptance for getting in when players that were better than him didn't. That's not fair to him either. I want to talk more about Barry Bonds, and it's really an honor to catch up with our next guest. It's been a while, of course, was one of the voices of my childhood and someone who, frankly, inspired me to get into this business once upon a time, and wish that we had got to keep him in Baltimore forever, but he has become synonymous with the San Francisco Giants, of course, a Ford Frick Award winner. He is the Hall of Famer himself, the great Jon Miller, and he's back with us now here on GCR. John, it's Glenn and Paul in Baltimore. It is always an honor to chat with you. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Morning, and always eager to and pleased to talk some ball.
It's always great. Just hearing your voice makes my day better, sir. I just want you to know that. Just hearing your voice greatly improves my day. John, what are your emotions as someone who is synonymous with the calls of the greatest moments in Barry Bonds' career? What are your emotions knowing he went 10 years without reaching baseball's Hall of Fame?
Well, I think that, number one, I can't say that I'm shocked because I think we all fully expected this outcome for this vote, just as all through the 10-year period. And so I think we all saw that coming. And I think at the same time, years ago when we were right in the middle of the, what really is sort of the infamous steroid era was ongoing, and it was all, the story was really breaking and coming out about what was actually happening. I felt, people asked the question, well, should these guys who've sort of been implicated in this, should they go in the Hall of Fame? And I was one who came out and said, no, I don't think so. They've put the game in disrepute, and I think that's a major issue. Now, here's what's changed for me, and I think for a lot of people, including a lot of voters who have, we broadcasters don't get a vote in the Hall of Fame thing. It's only the members of the Baseball Writers Association of America who are eligible to vote. But and I think that they and me and a lot of people now feel that we don't know who all was using steroids. I mean, we know the people that have somehow been implicated and associated with that and whatnot. But and Barry Bonds to this day has always denied knowingly ever taking steroids. Now that's a whole other story. And it's not a pretty story either.
It seems impractical for sure, right?
Yeah. So, but I think when he was in court, he appealing a conviction for lying to the grand jury or whatever, that his own lawyer came out and said, listen, we're not saying that he didn't take him. We're just saying that he didn't take him knowingly, and so on and so forth. So so that's what we know. But my point is that I think that era, the steroid usage, and it's been shown, was rampant. There are a lot of people doing it. And maybe the names that we associate with that are just a small percentage of the actual number of people that were using it. And that includes maybe some people who are already gotten into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
So I think for some voters, not enough, I guess, but for some, and a larger and larger percentage of the voters, the idea is that since we don't know who all was using and who isn't or wasn't, then how can we say, well, I'm going to vote for this guy but not that guy? Because the guy I am voting for may have been using. I don't know if he was or not. How would I know? So, and I think that's the issue for a lot of voters who just said, so I'm just going to go by the old idea that it was the guy a Hall of Famer or not based on what he did. And I think that number has been increasing over the year. There's some people who have entrenched positions and who are not going to change their votes, and that obviously has helped keep people like Bonds and Clemens out. But so I think that Bonds and probably Clemens too are still going to end up in the Hall of Fame, because once you get into these committees, that's a whole different story. So, and it'll be fascinating, as you say, that later this year when the more current era, I can't remember what they actually call these.
Today's game era, yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. When they get together, who knows? Maybe because these are a lot of Hall of Famers are in that committee. So, and I think it could be there could be some Hall of Famers themselves who have sort of hardline stances on this. That wait a minute, this is the kind of person that should not be here for what they did. And I know that from different Hall of Famers that I know and have talked to, when they gather every year at the Hall of Fame ceremonies, and then after the ceremonies are over, they have this great dinner, and it's one of those dinners that, man, I'd give anything to go to that dinner because all the Hall of Famers are there in one room, and it's totally private. They're the only ones, and they talk about all these issues, and they have a lot of laughs and a lot of fun and tell stories and all that, but they also talk about issues, and one of the issues that they do talk about is how do we all feel about the guys that we kind of really know that we're steroid people, and the word that I was getting was that most of the Hall of Famers kind of told the Hall of Fame even, if that guy gets voted in, we're not showing up that year. Mm-hmm. It'll just be him, and no Hall of Famers will be sitting on the stage behind him. So, and I think really that is the way it should be. The Hall of Famers should have sort of the last say about this kind of thing, because I think one thing about that fraternity is those guys look at it as being not just a great honor, but that they are sort of custodians of the game and of the Hall of Fame. So, and they take that seriously and as part of their role of being there. So, which is really a part of the cool thing about that. And I think that's one of the big reasons that Pete Rose is not in the Hall of Fame.
Sure.
I think that same thing happened. The Hall of Famers said, if Pete Rose goes in the Hall of Fame that year, none of us will be there, because the issue is such a hot button and taken so seriously by the actual Hall of Famers about betting on the game of baseball that they were not ready to forgive that. And I think in that case, my understanding is that Pete himself could have gone to the Hall of Famers, not a big public thing, not a public press conference, but just gone and met with the Hall of Famers themselves and apologized and said it was wrong what I did, and I put the game, and I realized that and then go out in public and do the same thing. And I think at that point the Hall of Famers would have forgiven him, and they wanted to forgive him. So, they want to welcome him into the Hall of Fame. They all do. But so, that's kind of, to me, kind of on Pete himself. So, so we'll see. But I think this thing is it's a major issue. But at the same time, I kept thinking if they had had a longer period than this 10-year period, the composition of the voters,
writers,
from the baseball writers, keeps changing. Guys retire, guys pass away, and new guys are becoming members. And I think the new guys, a lot of them, the younger writers, have a sort of a different take on the whole thing. Most of them, I think, may have the idea of, well, how do we know how all these people? So I'm just going to not try to do that kind of investigative reporting. I'm just going to look at their numbers and who belongs in and vote that way. Because all those guys, the number of votes that they were receiving was going up over the years.
Jon Miller is with us here on Glenn Clark Radio after the Hall of Fame announcement yesterday. John, one thing that you'll hear from a small group of people is, I'm actually glad. Barry Bonds is a jerk, and I don't want Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame, right? Because I don't care how great of a player he was, and I don't really even care about the steroid thing. He was a jerk. He was a bad person. You would know this better than I would, right? Although I'll tell you, I had a really terrible interaction with Barry Bonds once upon a time when I was working in Arizona. What do you make of that? The problem here, look, David Ortiz failed a test, but he was a really good guy and was gregarious and beloved in the media. What do you make of the idea that people say Barry Bonds shouldn't be in because he was a bad person?
Well, I mean, Barry was, I guess you might say, he had a prickly personality around, the people that he didn't know. And some of his teammates over the years also felt the same way about him. But, for me, there have been a lot of guys that have not gotten along with the press, and a lot of them are in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
So, everybody has their own idea of what was very boorish and hostile or impolite behavior, and for some people it was they were short with them, and so they were angry. Everybody has their own insecurities, and everybody wants to be treated with respect and with a certain expectation. But knowing Barry for many, many years, I will say that Barry's a good person. He's a good guy. And Barry was a guy who was able to, the word I use is compartmentalize. He was always able, no matter what was going on around him, to put that aside and focus on the game that night. It seems like nothing could get in the way of that for him, and which is what you want. The guys who are the best, the guys who end up in the Hall of Fame are the guys who are able to do that. You know, Eddie Murray used to wear that chain, and the you know, it was just like some jewelry, but it had the phrase "just regular," you know, in gold or whatever on the chain, because that was how Eddie was raised in the game and realized what he needed, and the way for anybody in baseball especially to have success on a daily basis and sustained success, that the day that you go 5 for 5 with 2 homers and 7 RBIs, that you're not on cloud 9 that night. You're not on top of the world. That the next day that you go 0 for 5 and you struck out 4 times and made an error, and you know you left 3 runners at third with less than 2 down, that when that game is over, you're still the same guy as the night before after you went 5 for 5 and had one of the great games in the whole game. So that's truly the way it is. You can't get real high about the game as overly excited, because you have another game tomorrow.
Right.
You still have to get your sleep. You know, when you get real excited, number one, it's hard to sleep sometimes. You get the adrenaline is pulsing and coursing through your veins and whatnot. So, so I think Barry Bonds was able to compartmentalize and just stay regular. And if he didn't want to talk to a writer or whatever, then he had no problem with just blowing him off. You know, no, I'm not talking today. And you know, and the writers would be offended and be upset with him. And Barry himself might not even remember an hour later that incident even happened. He's focused, and he's focused on the game that night, and he's either decided or just intuitively knew that he wasn't doing it. A story, just a personal story for me. And this was, you know, I had not been with the Giants that long, and the team had an opening night game on the road in Miami. And I was with Joe Morgan that night doing the opening night on ESPN.
Yeah.
So I flew to Miami the next day to join the team, and I saw Barry at the batting cage. You know, and I knew how the game had turned out the night before and so on and so forth. But, you know, I didn't have the full picture of what happened. So I just say to Barry, I said, how does this park play, especially in the twilight before the lights take full effect? And Barry's like, man, I can't believe it. You don't know what it's like out there. That's, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he's like jumping down my throat. And I said, Barry, I wasn't here last night. I was in Cincinnati or wherever I was. I really don't have any idea what happened last night. I'm literally just asking. And he says, oh, yeah. No, there's a spot out there. There's one spot where you can't see the ball. It's a peculiarity in the lights. And that ball last night just got hit to that spot, and that's why I didn't catch the ball. I says, so there, you mean you dropped the ball last night? He said, yeah. It was. Then he told me the scenario, you know, and he gave me what I needed. So that was helpful for me, because now on the broadcast I was able to talk about that spot in left field, and that's what happened to him the night before. And you know, talking to my broadcast partners who had been there, they pretty well knew that he had lost the ball in the lights, you know, just watching the play unfold. But then I was able to add what Barry told me about it. So, that goes way back to the days when he was with Pittsburgh. Joe Morgan and I'd come in for Sunday Night Baseball with the Pirates, and you know, Barry Bonds and Bobby Bonilla were the big stars in the team. Andy Van Slyke was a star, and they had really good teams there. And I could always go to the batting cage and talk to Barry, and he'd give me whatever I needed, you know. And you know, generally the kind of things we need are just nothing controversial. I just want to know, how does this field play? Is the field true? Do you get a good bounce on that outfield? Is it hard? Is it slow? Are the lights bad? Is there a blind spot? You know, I just want to know all that kind of stuff. And any other peculiarities of playing the outfield for Barry. So he, going all the way back to, I think when I first met him was 1990, and he always gave us the time and what we needed in it. And I think what people don't understand about Barry, he is very, very smart, very intelligent, and I don't know that there's ever been anybody in the game smarter than Barry. And he was always going way back, always had projects off the field where he was either as the internet started coming out and home personal computers, he always was all over those things immediately. Bought a camera, loved to take photos, and really got serious about it and trying to compose the photo and then to edit them on the computer and come up with just the kind of photo that he wanted to print and so I mean Barry's always had those kind of hobbies and so he's a person who's engaged mentally and always wanting new challenges. So even away from the game of baseball. So and he's one guy who's really doing great after retirement. It's not always the easiest thing for a professional athlete, to all of a sudden have the ability to do what he does and has done his whole life, taken away. And some guys really struggle with that when they're in their post playing career. Barry is excelling. He's in great shape. He exercises. He rides bicycles and sometimes in sort of competitively. He's an outdoorsman. He loves to go camp and fishing and be off in the wilderness and hiking and it's just fun. He has a lot of fun and I think his family is very dear to him and by all accounts he's a good father. So I've known those kids who are all grown up now.
Sure.
Some of them since they were just little kids. So I as a human being, my feeling is that Barry Bonds is a very strong and giving and loving human being. So
interesting.
And to see him around Willie Mays at the ballpark is, Willie is at the ballpark a lot, and he's Barry's godfather. And to see Barry with Willie at the ballpark, Willie will sit in the equipment guy's office down in the clubhouse when he's at the yard before a game. And players come in and talk to Willie and ask him advice and things like that. But when Barry's in there with him, Barry is like, so Willie, you want, are you hungry? Can I get you some food? And Willie will tell him what he wants, and Barry will, make sure he's got the order right. And then he goes back, to the little cafeteria back in the clubhouse, and he retrieves Willie's food and brings it back to him.
Wow.
And so and they sit and they have laughs with each other and they kind of needle each other. Willie was the guy that because you don't see that.
Yep.
Willie Mays needles Barry, and because you don't see anybody needle Barry, but Willie Mays needles him, and then they have laughs, and Barry goes right back after him. But Willie did say the Giants a few years back had a ceremony where they retired Barry Bonds' number, and Willie was not supposed to speak. And I think they asked him maybe if he wanted to, and he didn't really want to. And then all of a sudden he asked to speak, and he got up. Willie says, "Give me a microphone. I want to speak." "What are you going to do?" "Yeah, right over here, Willie. Come on up." And he just it was really sweet. He off the cuff he talked about what a thrill it was when he got the call to go into the Hall of Fame, which you don't hear that from Willie much because how he was thrilled. Like there was some kind of doubt as to maybe he would not go in the Hall.
Right, it's Willie Mays.
No, that it was a thrill, and how eager he was to get up to the Hall of Fame every year with all the other Hall of Famers, and what a great experience that is every year. And he felt like if somebody deserved to be in the Hall of Fame, that he wanted that person to get there so that they could experience the same thing. And especially somebody that that he loved and respected. And he said, Barry was a Hall of Famer without any question. He deserves to be there. And I'm just saying my personal appeal, put him in the Hall of Fame where he belongs. And if nothing else, do it because I'm asking you to as a Hall of Famer. And I'm saying he belongs there. Put him there. He deserves it. And it was very beautiful, and the crowd just went nuts. And there's Willie Mays. Willie just turned 90.
Wow.
This past year. And,
wow.
So he, and he's mostly blind. He's got the macular degeneration, and he's just a little old man and whatnot. But for me, I grew up with him the way people in Baltimore grew up with Brooks Robinson and Frank Robinson and the guys that they admired and idolized and whatnot. Willie Mays was one of the guys for me and probably made me a baseball fan. So when Willie speaks, that resonates with me.
I completely understand that. John, we've already kept you longer than we were supposed to. Could I squeeze in two more really quickly before we let you go? Would that be all right?
Sure.
Jon Miller is with us on GCR. What you just alluded to with Willie and his feelings about Barry, I understand that broadcasters are not players, right? You're not technically in the Hall of Fame, but you've also had that honor. You've been in Cooperstown. You have been recognized on that dais. Do you have any of those same feelings knowing – I think anybody with a brain, we're talking about, if not the greatest, one of the three greatest baseball players of all time that's not in the Hall of Fame. Do you have any of those emotions that are similar as someone who has been recognized in Cooperstown that way?
Well, I will say that watching what Barry Bonds was doing for several years was the most incredible thing that I've ever seen in the game. And I don't think that anybody's seen. He had the greatest stretch, and maybe it wouldn't have happened quite the way it happened without the performance-enhancing substance, the PEDs. But at the same time, he was already the best player in the game. For most of the 90s.
No question.
The question was, who's better, Griffey or Bonds?
Mm-hmm.
And there were some things about Bonds that were better than Griffey. But you certainly couldn't go wrong with either one of them at that time, at the top of their game. But so I think, and the other part was that it was funny. People, a lot of the writers and whatnot, all kind of loved Griffey. Because he was a little more accessible and maybe a little less prickly with them and whatnot. But for some reason, the people were writing and whatnot says, well, we know Griffey never used it. And it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, maybe, right, correct.
I mean, how do you know?
Correct.
What do you mean you know? And at the same time, I remember... Barry was hitting all these home runs, and people say, well, look at him, he's bigger, and look at those numbers. We know that he's... And I used to say then, wait a minute. How do you know? What do you mean you know? I want you to tell me specifically, how do you know? Since you know, when was it that he started? And how much does he take him? Well, I think... obviously, that first year he hit 50, he never hit 50 before. That was probably that year. And, okay, so you don't know that. You're trying to say cause and effect and whatever. Well, I mean, obviously we know he's doing something. But we know. No, we don't know. But the thing I would always bring up was, so Matt Williams also is using PEDs? Oh, no, nobody thinks Matt Williams. Well, how do you explain 1994? And most of these people didn't know what I was talking about. But go back and look it up. 1994, that was a strike year. Mm-hmm. We only had about 110-game season, so
true.
2/3 of the season was played. And Matt Williams, after 2/3 of a season, had 43 home runs.
Mm-hmm.
in two-thirds of. He was on pace to obliterate Roger Maris and Babe Ruth's home run records by, he was on pace for 64, 65 home runs. So how do you explain that? If you're saying that Barry, obviously, because he never hit that many home runs before, then I guess you must have to explain everybody doing that. Because Jeff Bagwell also that year was hitting a similar number of home runs, and he actually got hurt. So he wouldn't have broken the record because he would have been out for the rest of that year. But he was on pace to do it as well. This is several years before Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa were doing that. So the other part was that year when it was unfolding before the strike, Barry Bonds got really hot, and he started creeping up on Matt Williams, and Barry had 37 home runs at the time of the strike. Or, in other words, he was on pace for 55 or 56. Plus, he was red hot, and I thought, well, in 1927, when Babe hit 60, Lou Gehrig finished second with 47 that year, and they went into September. Lou Gehrig had 46 home runs through August, and the Babe had 43. But in September, the Babe hit 17 homers, and Gehrig only hit one more. And I remember saying at that time, in 1994, I think because he's Barry Bonds, he's going to end up with more homers than Matt Williams. And if somebody reaches 60 or more, it's probably going to be Barry Bonds. Because I thought he's going to do exactly what the Babe did and just leave Lou Gehrig in the dust back in 1927. So, but we never got to find out, which is the tragedy of a strike like that. So, but anyway, for me, that whole thing of we know because of the numbers. No, even Maris himself must have been using something, because he had one year he hit 39 home runs. That was the best year he ever had, other than the year he hit 61. How do you explain that? It happens, and there's so many times in history that it has happened, and so I think that we need a little more evidence, a little more than I think we know how he did that. So that's just innuendo, and and I think maybe the final summation is that's why this is a serious issue. And I don't blame anybody who didn't vote for Barry Bonds or Roger Clemens in this thing, because it has put in question what a lot of people have done and their achievements. And that's the disrepute that the game sort of fell into because of that whole era. And that's the damage that has been done by it. So anyway, there we have it.
It's a complicated answer. I get it. I completely understand what you're saying, John. I just don't know how you have a baseball Hall of Fame without the greatest players of all time. And I certainly understand what you're alluding to. That yes, I don't love these things, and I wish it hadn't been the case. But they're the greatest players of all time. It's a tough thing. It's a very tough. It's a tough.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame should be about the history of the game, and not just rewarding, but acknowledging it's the museum of the game. The whole history of the game is right there on display, and which is what's so fun about going to the Hall of Fame. And by the way, anybody who's never been there, I think, who's a baseball fan, needs to go, and they will not regret it, and it'll be one of the great experiences of their lives to go up there. So, so get up there and enjoy it, and go find, if you're an Orioles fan, go find the Brooks Robinson display and the Jim Palmer display and the Frank Robinson display and Eddie Murray and Cal and all those great Orioles who are all up there, and there are the uniform and the cleats and the ball that Cal hit for a home run the night he broke Lou Gehrig's consecutive game record. All that stuff is there from that moment in history, and no Orioles fan will ever forget that. That is one of the greatest.
And you were a big part of that moment in 1995, Jon Miller, and we think about that a lot.
It was one of the greatest nights I've ever had in a ballpark, and then the fans held their own celebration with Cal. Cal had refused to allow the game to be stopped
Yep.
for a celebration, because Cal was thinking, no, that's disrespect for the game. I will not be any part of that. After the game's over, you want to have some ceremonies and whatnot? Great. I'll be honored. I'll be all over it. But not during the game. We're not stopping. And then the fans did it themselves. So that was not planned. That was not on the schedule. That was not supposed to happen. And that was the sort of that lingering picture of Rafael Palmeiro and Bobby Bonilla pushing Cal out of the dugout and sending him on his way for his lap around the field. And they kept telling him, you've got to go and run a lap. And he said, I can't do that. And they said, no, they're not going to stop cheering.
Correct. Yeah, it's not. You don't have a choice here.
We're never going to get this game started until you do that. And then the thing we didn't know that night was that Cal was sick. He was running a fever, and he'd been still trying to take care of his family and take the kids to school in the morning and be up with them before their day started. Even though he was going, night after night, because remember, after games, he was, even in the road games, he was staying out for 30, 40 minutes after games, signing autographs in all the ballparks the Orioles were in. It was one of the most extraordinary things that I've ever seen to this day. But Cal just decided, well, and his wife, now his ex-wife, said, I hope you can enjoy this. You've earned it. You put in so much work. And I hope that you can, because it's going to be hectic and it's going to be a lot of demands, but I hope that you can sort of bask in it and enjoy it, and so that you'll never forget it. And that was one of the ways that Cal decided that he was going to do it, and share it with the fans, even all these fans in all these other cities that were not Oriole fans.
No question.
So that's one of the. It was completely opposite what we've just been talking about. I mean, Cal, that was the year after that strike, which was a horrible black mark on the game. The World Series was wiped out, and a lot of people said, "The hell with this game! A pox on both their houses, the owners and the players. I'm not coming back." And and who could blame them? So. If the game's no longer fun, why would you spend time and money on the game? So, but Cal, in some ways, almost single-handedly turned that around, and the Orioles were having a bad season. You remember who the manager was that year? It was Phil Regan.
Phil Regan, yep, exactly right. Yep.
So he wasn't a manager there for very long, but he was the manager that year. So, and the team was not a very good team, but and there was Cal. And ESPN had the national telecast of that game and got the best rating for a baseball telecast they'd ever had up to that time for that game. So that kind of the nation tuned in, and everybody was just so excited about it. So anyway, so that's the flip side, and so get up there to the Hall of Fame if you're a baseball fan and check out the Cal's display and the stuff there from that night and from his brilliant career and all those great Orioles who did so many fabulous things, and Eddie Murray. And Eddie Murray was, Eddie Murray was a guy like Barry Bonds from just this one standpoint. That a lot of the writers just didn't like him.
That's true. That's true.
And so they didn't write nice things about him. Eddie was like the nicest guy that I've ever met in the game. And the actual Eddie Murray was a great guy. My daughters, who were just young children, I introduced them to Eddie, before a game, just by chance, and he spent several minutes with them and could not have been nicer. And then they would send artwork,
Wow.
My 3-year-old and my 5-year-old, my 7-year-old. They'd send artwork and said, Dad, could you give this to Eddie?
Oh.
And I promised him that I would. He asked for some artwork, and and then I said, Eddie, I promised I'd do that. He says, no, I told him to make some for me. So, and then he pinned him up in his locker, So my daughter just got it, and to this day, I mean, they're grown-up people now, but don't ever say a bad thing about Eddie Murray to them, And so I've seen him with kids, and just a wonderful guy and a great teammate. He was only about team. Eddie never knew what his stats were on a given day. He just knew how the team was doing, and so to me, he was the quintessential Hall of Famer. And I don't want to go down this path necessarily, but I think the fact that both Eddie and Barry Bonds are
I understand
African Americans.
Yep.
It just makes you wonder.
I understand,
because I think they're not alone in maybe having moments where they've been rude to the press. But they. So there are a lot of other aspects to that as well.
John, I completely understand what you're saying, and I don't think you're wrong to bring it up for what it's worth. I just don't think so. John, we've gone so far over with you, but I need to say two things to you before I let you go. The first is, I really meant what I said at the top. I'm telling you, Chuck, Johnny Holiday, you were the reasons why I wanted to be a sports broadcaster growing up, and I truly mean that. It was such a joy to spend our evenings with you, and you remain missed. And I only follow that up to say, I know, unfortunately, how things ended, but I pray that one day we can get things right and you can go into the Orioles Hall of Fame too, and we can have a big day to celebrate you back in Baltimore, because you are loved in our community, and you will always be loved in our community, sir.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I had great years in Baltimore, and it was one of the happiest experiences of my life. And my kids all basically feel like Baltimoreans. That's where they grew up. So, and we still have a lot of friends there, and we always love going back there. So, anyway, I really appreciate you having me on. All the best.
Thank you so much for taking the time, Jon Miller. Really appreciate you. The great Jon Miller. Whew. We did 40 minutes, and if he said he wanted to stay on for another 2 hours, I would have just said, cancel all of my plans. We'll do another 2 hours with Jon Miller today, because it's Jon Miller talking about baseball. And you tell me how you're spending your time that's any better than Jon Miller talking about baseball.
I can't think of a better way to spend a Wednesday.
What did Paul from? I'm not going to lie, it's just still awesome to hear Jon Miller's soothing baseball voice. It's just, you hear it, you're just like, yep, I just want you to talk about baseball. That's what I want you to do. Just talk to me about baseball.
To hear him talk about the Orioles greats with love in his voice is awesome.
Look, man,
I wish things could have worked out better.
It brings up
here.
a whole level of awkwardness that we're 25 years removed from, right? Like we're 25 years removed from the insanity of letting Jon Miller go, and the turning point, right? Like, let's be honest. Up until that moment, there was no reason for anyone in the city to have a negative feeling towards Peter Angelos. He was a local guy who cared about the Orioles, bought the team, and remember, turned him into a winner, right? In the stadium, and they were a winner in '96. The turning point, the moment everything changed, was when he let Jon Miller go and said, I think you ought to bleed a little orange and black. Everything changed from them. A year later, he fires Davey Johnson, and then it was never, obviously, the same in the relationship between owner and city. Never. I mean, it never will be, obviously. I hate revisiting it because we're just so far removed from it. We can't change anything about it. And Jon Miller has been an icon in San Francisco now for 2.5 decades. They've been able to have the joy that we had just listening to Jon Miller call baseball games. And we've had, we got to spend time with Gary Thorne. I think Kevin Brown is proving himself to be a fine, broadcaster that I think we're going to enjoy listening to call games for some years. I'm not trying to elevate him to Jon Miller or Gary Thorne by any stretch of the imagination.
Put Joe Angel up there.
Joe and I love Fred Manfred. You know what I mean? I don't know if I would put Joe with Jon Miller's level, but very close, right? Like very close, and love Joe Angel. But boy, it's just tough to think about. It's just tough to think about that and regret it. But man, I'll do 40 minutes with Jon Miller anytime Jon Miller's ready to do, and he can just talk about whatever he wants. Every time he's like, well, he just sort of wanders off somewhere else. All right, man, I'll go with you. Because I'm listening to Jon Miller talk about baseball.
That's why he's such a great broadcaster.
No question. So we're going to run over a lot today because we still haven't talked to Trevelin Queen yet. It's Jon Miller's fault. Blame him today. Today's show has also been brought to you by CCBC. I keep using these words, tuition-free. I hope you're filing them away. If you need to hone your computer skills to boost your career, or maybe you want an IT certification, CCBC Continuing Education has the courses and programs you need for a career in the computer field, and it's all tuition-free. From the basics to specialized training, we have the classes you need, from hardware to programming to cybersecurity and so much more. It's your choice. It's your career. 443-840-4700 or ccbcmd.edu/computer training. Tidbit, tubular, Trevelin Queen. To wrap it up, it's Glenn Clark Radio. Duffy's Garage is a family-owned and operated car care facility in beautiful Baldwin, Maryland. An authorized Maryland inspection station and Napa Pro Care Center with ASE-certified techs. Tell them that Glenn Clark sent you and receive 10% off your service with a max discount of $150. You gotta trust where you take your car, so take it to where I take mine. Duffy's Garage in Baldwin. Duffy'sGarageMD.com.
From all of the biggest games to the smallest events, make every bet worth your while at MyBookie. Start by doubling your first deposit instantly with MyBookie's first deposit bonus up to $1,000. Double your money before you even place a bet, and all you have to do is sign up and deposit using the exclusive promo code PRESSBOX at mybookie.ag. If your first deposit is $100, MyBookie adds $100 so you can start with $200 to play with. If your first deposit is $1,000, MyBookie adds $1,000 so you can start with $2,000 to play with. With tons of great games and prop bets to take advantage of this week, there is truly something for everyone. Don't wait any longer. Head to MyBookie today to redeem your double deposit bonus so you can start winning big today. That's promo code PRESSBOX to receive double your first deposit instantly in your account. No hassle, no wait. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
It's another cold winter here in Baltimore, but this time there's no hot stove to warm you up. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, and while there may be no activity in the world of baseball, I'll still be here every week with my co-host Zach Goodman to give you all the latest in the CBA negotiations as teams look to get back on the field in time for spring training. You can watch us live every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or facebook.com/PressBoxSports and listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. So tune in every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon for the latest in baseball coverage right here on the Bat Around.
Glory Days Grill's winter seasonal menu is back with comfort classics like their house-made meatloaf and short rib grilled cheese. It also features the center-cut sirloin with grilled shrimp, the char-grilled pork tenderloin, grilled meatloaf sandwich, smoky thigh wings with Alabama barbecue sauce, and a Brussels and bacon appetizer. All of these items pair well with Devil's Backbone 8-Point IPA or their anniversary IPA brewed by Devil's Backbone. And try their seasonal cocktails, Blood Orange Bourbon Cider, Apple Ginger Mule, and Captain's Hot Cider. Find out more and get your order in today at glorydaysgrill.com. Great food, good sports.
Window Depot Baltimore provides the highest quality Pro-Via windows, doors, and siding for all budgets. The best is finally affordable. Call them today for a free in-home consultation at 410-941-3499. They also offer Zoom and FaceTime consultations in an effort to practice social distancing. A proud sponsor of the Tyus Bowser Show, you can find out more at WindowDepotBaltimore.com.
We can't imagine why you'd want to, but you can watch GCR live. It's at facebook.com/PressBoxSports and try to guess whether these guys are wearing any pants.
So we'd have to go back and check the exact text of the transcript of what he said, because he might have danced his way around it perfectly. But if you remember correctly, when we had Anthony Levine Sr. on Monday, I asked him about his plans and alluded to, like, you thought about your future. Are you planning on being a Raven again next year? And in listening to it and thinking about exactly what he said, and I can't remember the exact wording of it was at that moment, he definitely said, yeah, I'm planning on that. I'm planning to be a Raven. And he probably can wiggle his way out of saying, because I'm accusing him of sandbagging me, but he can probably wiggle his way out of it because technically, as Anthony Levine Sr. has announced his retirement today, he's actually going to stay with the franchise in a scouting role and a coaching assistant role for the Ravens next year. So he could totally say, yeah, I told you I was going to be a Raven next year, and I'm going to be, just not on the football field. And that's what I was alluding to, and the question was, are you thinking about, your mid-30s, or what's going on? Now, I'm not mad at him in any way. If he was planning on doing some sort of announcement with the team, I get it. While he and I are good, he's not going to give that away. Hey, in 2 days, they put together this big video package, and I'm announcing my retirement. Like, he's not going to give that away if it's something they've been working on with the team. And I'm not mad at him about that. I understand that. They pay checks to him. I do nothing of the sort. So I'm not mad at him about that.
I do remember in the interview when you asked him, and at first he didn't answer.
Like, he kind of seemed like he chuckled a little bit, too.
Yeah,
like,
at first he didn't answer.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, right.
What's going on?
Right.
And then he said he said something else. He goes, but yeah, I think I'd like to be back or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. I thought it was weird the way he answered.
I don't think we can fully accuse him. Like, we're going, and we'll call him again today, and we'll see if we'll come back on tomorrow to talk about it, because Anthony Levine Sr. announces retirement. And I said everything I needed to say about Anthony Levine when he was on with us on Monday. Just an incredible person, a unique story in the NFL of someone who persevered, finding a role in which he was really good, a very, very quality individual, and as respected. I just said this to Sam Bruck. They treated, in that locker room, they treated Anthony Levine like he was Ed Reed. The reverence for Anthony Levine within that locker room from those young players is unreal. It's unreal, the way that they respected him. And, he's a Super Bowl champion. He's earned that, right? Like, he's a guy that made it in this league for a really long time. But they treat him like a great of the game. That's how much reverence, that's how important he is to the players in that locker room, and certainly has a lot to do with why the Ravens want to keep him around in some capacity moving forward, because of the respect that he has garnered from other players, man. A hell of a career for Anthony Levine Sr., and it means we're down to like 2. Like, we're down to like Justin Tucker and Sam Cook from the Super Bowl 40. I guess Pernell McPhee is still technically on the roster. I don't know. Is he he was a 1-year deal, right? So he was on the roster recently anyway, so I don't know where they are with Pernell McPhee, but we're down to just a couple of guys. Jimmy Smith still, if he comes back next year, and that's an if, but we're a decade removed from the Super Bowl, and we're getting to the point where it's just about nobody left from that time. So, but what a run for Anthony Levine Sr. All right, let's get a tidbit. Tidbit brought to you today by the Best Of issue of Press Box. We celebrate Justin Tucker as our Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year. Inside, we recognize the top people, performances, and moments of 2021. You can get it for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box, or read it all, pressboxonline.com/bestof.
All right, so on Tuesday night, and we just talked about this at length with Jon Miller, Barry Bonds was left off his 10th and final Hall of Fame ballot, despite having a career slash line of .298, .444, .607, and the most home runs, walks, and intentional walks of all time. As we discussed on the show yesterday, Bonds in 2004 reached base 376 times while only recording 373 at-bats, something certainly unprecedented and one of the most mind-boggling stats out of the numerous accolades he achieved. Bonds also recorded a single-season B WAR of 9 or higher 8 times. David Ortiz, for example, since he was the only player elected into the Hall of Fame, had a single-season high B WAR of 5.8 for his career. All told, Bonds won 7 MVPs, 4 more than any other player. 10 other players in history have won 3 MVP awards. Who are they?
Oh, my God. I actually know this, too. Well, Mike Trout now, right?
Mike Trout.
Yep. Oh, God. This is going to drive me nuts because I swear to God, I just did. I think Kyle did this like a year ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it's long enough ago that, like, I'm not remembering them off the top of my head. Oh, my God. 3 MVP awards. I should probably just start guessing and then
you can just start naming some.
I know, but I swear, like, I'm gonna kick myself for not remembering because we didn't do it all that long ago. All right, 3 MVP awards. Willie Mays.
No.
That's a little surprising, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a little surprising.
I legitimately just triple checked my list because I was like, he should be. He's not.
Well, that's a hell of a way to start this off. How about Albert Pujols?
Albert Pujols. He is on the list.
Drive me nuts. How about Mickey Mantle?
Mickey Mantle. He is on the list.
How about Ted Williams?
No.
Surprising.
Remember, he had 4 years off.
I understand that. It's still Ted Williams we're
Yeah.
talking about. How about? I'm trying to think of. Is there anybody else that's modern?
One guy is modern to us. Another guy was still playing in the 80s.
Oh, Alex Rodriguez, right?
Alex Rodriguez.
Okay. And now I got to go back a ways. One guy that was still playing in the 80s. Still playing in the 80s. Still playing in the 80s.
Can I give you a slight hint?
Yeah, sure, because it's 12:24.
Yeah,
and we still have a run an
There's
interview.
an argument between he and another guy for being the best ever at that position.
Best ever at that position. Oh, it's Mike Schmidt.
Mike Schmidt.
Yep. I can't believe that actually worked, by the way. I can't believe that wizardry actually worked on this one. All right, so now I got to go back a ways. So I don't know what year they started. That's the problem. I don't know when they started awarding MVPs. Ty Cobb.
No.
Babe Ruth.
No.
Lou Gehrig.
No. You're on the right track, though.
I'm on the right track, though. Yuck. I'm on the right track. Was it Honus Wagner who I confused with Ty Cobb yesterday?
No. You said Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. That puts you on the right track.
Because it's a Yankee.
Couple of them.
A couple of Yankees. Yogi Berra.
Yogi Berra. He is on the list.
I don't know. Who's in the other?
He's a dunker.
He's a dunker. He's a dunker? That doesn't mean anything to me. Why should that mean something to me?
Seinfeld. He's a dunker.
Oh, I'm not a Seinfeld guy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. There's a
Who?
song about him.
There's a song. Oh, Joe DiMaggio. Sure. Right. Yeah, okay. All right. My bad. I definitely should have said. Well, I was thinking of a little bit further back. There's still three more?
There's three more.
Stan Musial.
Ernie
Banks.
No. These guys you might not get.
Oh, good.
They're known names, but they don't pop into your head when you start thinking of the all-time
Tris
greats.
Speaker.
No.
Rogers Hornsby.
No.
Hank Greenberg.
No.
Jimmy Fox. Mel Ott.
No.
Duke Snyder.
I believe, I could be wrong, I believe this guy was a catcher.
Roy Campanella.
Roy Campanella.
Did not know he won 3 MVP awards. Roy Campanella. Is that all of them?
That's all of them.
Hey!
Roy Campanella only had a 2.6 MVP share, though, for winning 3 awards. I don't know what that means, but it was really low on the list for 3 MVP wins.
Very good. Very good. Tubular brought to you by Live Casino Hotel. Get your, if you want to be there for the big game, send the message right now, events@sportssocialmd.com. I promise you there's nowhere better to be than the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino Hotel. All the in-game bets, live betting going on, and all of the props. You can go right up to the window or one of their 51 self-service kiosks to get your bets in at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover and the FanDuel Sportsbook. Events@sportssocialmd.com if you want to be there for the big game. Here's what's going on tonight. Navy Hoops at Bucknell, 7 o'clock on ESPN+. Also ESPN Plus for UMBC and NJIT at 7. Big Ten Hoops on BTN, Northwestern Michigan, 6:30. Penn State, Indiana at 8:30. Australian Open women's semifinals overnight tonight on ESPN. 2 Americans in the semifinals. Neither one of them are favorites. It's Madison Keys, Ashley Barty, and then it's Danielle Collins against Iga Swiatek overnight tonight, starting at 3:30 a.m. for the Australian Open women's semifinals. ESPN also has Knicks Heat at 7:30, Suns Jazz at 10, NBC Sports Washington, Sharks Capitals at 7, TNT Blackhawks Red Wings 7:30, Bruins Avalanche at 10, Golf Channel for round 1. They're doing it Wednesday to Saturday so they don't go up against the championship games, the golf tournament this weekend. Probably pretty smart. Round 1 of the PGA Farmers Insurance Open at noon, and TBS for AW Dynamite tonight at 8. Anything non-sports-wise that we got to cover?
Charlie Day is going to be on Jimmy Kimmel Live
What's
tonight.
he plugging?
Maybe another.
Sonny
Always Sunny?
wrapped up.
Oh,
Yeah,
I have
it's
no
over.
idea, but he's going to be on
that
along with
season, anyway.
Ian Dior featuring Machine Gun Kelly and Travis
No,
Barker.
I never missed
at
them.
11:35.
Yeah, never missed them.
Halle Berry and Dave Franco are going to be on the Tonight Show
Package
starring
deal.
Jimmy Fallon's.
Known.
And the book of Boba Fett, Chapter 5 on Disney+.
Right. All right. Everything else, go to glennclarkradio.com and find it there. Thanks today to, and what a chat we had with Jon Miller. Thanks also today to Drew Forrester, who was on with us for a similar amount of time, but probably was not as thrilling as Jon Miller. Thanks to Nendah Tarke from Coppin State, and thanks to Trevelin Queen, who you're about to hear from. We'll get it all up in the greatest hits section of the tab at glennclarkradio.com. KZ joins us tomorrow. Jim Nagy from the Senior Bowl is going to join us tomorrow ahead of next week's festivities. Of course, he also does draft stuff for ESPN, so that'll be our weekly draft chat for the week. And stuff and things tomorrow on the program. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including CCBC, Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, ExxonMobil, Great 8's Memorabilia, Live Casino and Hotel, Underdog Fantasy Football, Duffy's Garage in Baldwin, Window Depot, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com, and MyBookie, Blue 9 K9 as well. Thanks to Paul. Follow him on Twitter at Paul Valley III. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Wednesday night. Go UMBC and Navy. Duke sucks. Ohio State sucks too. We wrap up today's show. This is an unbelievable story. Trevelin Queen from North County, grinded, was homeless at one point, living in a car, got to the NBA. Awesome story. Let's hear from him right now. Had to record it a little bit earlier on as we wrap up today's edition of GCR. It's a pleasure now to be joined here on GCR by one of Glen Burnie's own and a young man who's had to grind his way to reaching the NBA level this season. He's with the Rio Grande Valley Vipers right now, but spent a lot of time with the Houston Rockets and is on a two-way contract and will be back there shortly for sure. He is Trevelin Queen, and he's with us now here on GCR. Trevelin, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Hey, man, how you doing? Appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely, man. It's so great to chat with you, dude. It's so cool. For people that aren't aware, man, like your journey, your to get to this point in your life, and I know how much work you had to put in order to do this. Can you put into words what has meant to you to get to the NBA level, given everything that you've had to do to make this work for yourself?
Oh, it was crazy. It was surreal when I first signed my contract, just being through what I've been through, like so many schools, being under the radar my whole life and stuff like that, having to face situations I face. I mean, everybody goes through what they go through in life, but that's no excuse to give up on what you know what I'm saying, what your dreams is. And my dream was to make it to the NBA. I wouldn't say that was one of my goals. That was the dream that I accomplished. My goal was just to put my family in a better position. So when I got there, that was one of my goals in life. So that's what always just kept me motivated, my family and everything else around me. You know what I mean? Because like once you get stuck in a situation, if it's all about you, then you never have no motivation to get out. So my goals in life was just to take care of my family. So that's what just drove me to go through what I went through and just accomplish my dreams.
It's so cool, man. When you talk about going through what you went through, I've heard some stories about the things that you've had to do in order to get to this point. I heard a story that for a little while you had to live in a car in order to keep the basketball dream alive. Is that true?
Yeah, I was in junior college in California. I was homeless for a while, me and a couple of teammates, and we just had to face a little adversity because we had a situation that happened before that. We all got removed from an apartment. Yeah, we had to face homelessness, and one of my teammates had family in East Oakland as we would stay in Marin. So, like, from Marin to East Oakland is like a big difference, like going from the suburbs to, you know what I'm saying, a little lower level, and you don't know what's going to happen next. You know what I mean? You're just living in the car, going day by day, eating who knows what for dinner the next day. And this is like before Cash App or anything like that. So, like, we had like Wells Fargo money. You know how that goes. Like, you send $100, they take 25 of it. Right. So we stuck with 75. 4 people, you know what I mean? For like a week. And we grown men, too, so it's not like we can just eat Doritos and oatmeal all day. You know what I'm saying? We need some meals. So it was kind of hard. Then we had to transport from East Oakland to Marin County, which is about a 40-minute drive to school every morning. You know, California traffic ain't the easiest. And the 82 Delta, you know how old that car is. So it'll break down on you, give out on you anytime. So you know how that goes.
Okay, take me back to those days, right? Take me back to that moment, right? Did you ever have a point, and whether it was then, I know you've had to deal with some other things and going from different schools. Did you ever at any point say to yourself, man, it's not worth it. Like, it's just not worth me doing this. I don't know if it's ever going to pan out for me. Did you ever have a point where you thought to yourself, it's whatever. I don't need to worry about basketball anymore. It's not worth going through these things.
I never had a situation where I never thought it was worth it because I knew it was going to be worth it at the end of the day. But it was a time where I almost gave up on it. Not saying that it was worth it, but I almost gave up in a situation where when I was homeless in California, I had lost my grandmother. And to me, she was my best friend. So we couldn't afford to go fly me out to the funeral or anything like that. So that's what really took a toll on me for a while as I was homeless in Oakland. So you know how that could go, you know what I mean? When your best friend, you lose your best friend, you don't remember the last thing she says to you. You don't remember none of that. And you're just living. You're just trying to make it day by day, and she's gone. I couldn't even go see her.
Oh,
remember what she was, nothing like that, you know what I mean? So it was really hard for me at that point.
I can certainly,
the lowest of my lowest, you know what I mean?
Dude, I could completely understand why you might want to, give up at that point. Like, I can completely understand that. What led you to not? Why didn't you at that point, Trevelin? Why did you say, no, I'm going to keep on the grind to what's now gotten you to the NBA?
Like I said before, it was always bigger than me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just my family and everything like that. I just never felt like I was doing it in a selfish way. I knew once I made it and did what I had to do that I was going to be able to put my family in a situation and be able to retire my mom and dad. But even though this is a hard business, once you get in here, it's harder to stay in there than it is to get there, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So I just try to find ways to stay here and keep my head evened out on what's the bigger picture is at the end of the day.
Trevelin Queen is with us, the pride of Glen Burnie, North County High School, and now no matter what, and I know the goal is to be back there soon, but no matter what, he reached the NBA. He's lived the dream. He's with us here on GCR. Trevelin, when you put on the Rockets uniform for the first time, like in a real game back in December, right? Like the first time you put it on, what are the emotions like? What is going through your mind? You check into a game, you know you're there. You have achieved the goal of every kid that ever picks up a basketball in their life.
I was just surreal, like I said before, you know what I'm saying? Finally putting that NBA jersey on and finally getting them NBA points is like, all right, now I finally made it, you know what I mean? I could put the jersey on. Once you get that first official bucket in the first official minute, it's like, oh, yeah, I really made it. So, like, it was just like a roller coaster of emotions, you know what I mean? Like, just being in the game and like, oh, shit, there's DeMar DeRozan. Oh, shit, there's this guy and that guy. It's like, oh, I was just playing with these dudes on 2K. I was just playing with these dudes on 2K. Now I'm guarding them one-on-one, you know what I mean? So it was just like a surreal moment.
Is that the one was – like DeRozan might legitimately be the MVP this year, by the way. Like, was that the one for you that you've experienced so far that's been the most surreal moment for you to like share a court with somebody?
Oh no, I haven't had that moment. I think actually it was probably with the Lakers when I was on the court with LeBron.
That's true, right? Yeah.
And summer and stuff like that. So that was probably the most surreal moment. Like, yo, that's really LeBron James. Like, yo, that's really Russell Westbrook. You know what I mean? Like, I'd have dreamed of this day to happen, and now I'm guarding these dudes one-on-one in practice. They're guarding me, and you know what I'm saying? It's just, I'm really hooping with LeBron James. So, like, that was probably the most surreal.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. For those that don't know, you spent camp with the Lakers. That didn't even click. Of course, like, holy crap, that's LeBron James right there, man. Like, my God, dude, it doesn't get. And actually, that entire roster, right? Like, Jesus, there's like Hall of Famers all over that roster. That is crazy, man. That's so cool. Trevelin, this is not the path. Not a lot of kids from North County end up making it in the NBA or any professional sports league, right? How were you able to do something that other people don't do? You didn't go to a huge prep school. You didn't go to one of the powerhouses. How were you able to do something that no one else has been able to do?
I guess I just fell in love with it, you know what I'm saying, from the start. And I just knew that if I go hard and go all in with this, I can put myself in a position to live a great life, you know what I mean? Not even myself, my family. So like I said before, and I always harp on it, it's always bigger than me at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? I'm in it for longevity. I want my kids to be good, you know what I'm saying? I want my mom to be good throughout the rest of her, you know what I'm saying? The second half of her life, I want my dad to be good the second half of his life. So, like, it's always just bigger than me. I always want to take care of everybody else. So for me to stop, I wouldn't be able to do that, you know what I mean? And I love the game. I can't see myself doing nothing else. Like, at all. Even after basketball stops dribbling, I want to be in coaching or run camps and programs and give back to, like, the lower level communities that don't have much and show them that there is hope and there is a chance of making it.
And I saw that you had already done that even before you had reached the NBA level. Like, you did an event at Fort Meade last summer, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it seems like that's a pretty important thing for you, like knowing there's a bunch of other kids who are coming from similar circumstances as you, and you need to show them, like, that you can, if you work, you can accomplish this.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to show them, that there's other ways out, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to go off what social media or anything like that shows you nowadays. Don't worry about getting in. getting it all the next day or the day after that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just takes a while, you know what I mean? You got to take a longer road than somebody else. So you can't watch the next man's, you know what I'm saying, journey, and then you can write the same chapters, you know what I mean? You got to be your own author.
That's
Sometimes
incredible.
the book takes longer than others. So
That's incredible. Hey,
I was
Trevor.
just trying to tell him, like,
Trevelin Queen is with us from Glen Burnie here on GCR. Tell me about, like, falling in love with basketball, because you talk about how much you care about it. When did you know, like, at what point in your life did you say, dude, this is it for me? And obviously it helps that you were probably a little bit bigger than most of the kids, right? Like, but when did you know this is the thing that I'm going to put all my love, all my passion into, is pursuing basketball?
it's just been around me my whole life. Like, my dad used to take me to the park when I was about 5, 6 years old, 8, 10. I was always playing against people older than me and bigger than me. And, like, they wouldn't, like, take it easy on me. They'd be like, yo, you suck, like, blah, 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 you got this and that. Like, they wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? So it was always a competitive spirit for me, being the smallest guy on the court, to trying to prove myself. I've always been trying to prove myself my whole life. And it just kept that competitive spirit in me. Like, no matter what level I was at, I was always trying to be the best person I could be for my team or the ones around me. So I was always trying to be the best.
That's wild, man. Like, that's so funny to think about. Like, you just had to, you know, sort of, what would a kid, nut up, right? Like, that's what they call it, right? Like, you just got to go grind with them. Trevor, what did you learn most from getting that first taste of the NBA? What did you learn most that you're now working on to say, hey, here's what I'm going to do differently to force their hand? Like, you know, you had some huge games, right? You had some double-digit scoring games. What did you learn about the NBA level that you're now working on to say, when I'm there next, I'm not going anywhere. I'm sticking for as long as they'll have me?
Just be selfish within yourself, you know what I mean? Like, take care of your body, take care of your mental, take care of your physical before you even take care of anybody else. I would say, you know what I'm saying? Like, be selfish without being selfish, you know what I mean? Like, put yourself first. It's okay to put yourself first, because it's really a hard job. You got all this traveling, all this physical, mental, and draining stuff every day. So it's just like, take care of yourself, because if you're not 100% yourself, you can't help the next person. So I would say, like, especially the mental part, because you never know, like, you can come, like, in the G League, I'll play 30-something minutes a game, then I go up top and play 30 seconds. So it's like staying mentally locked in, mentally prepared throughout any situation. It's always staying ready. That's
a great point, right? Like, you don't know exactly what the moment's going to be where you got to get in and you got to do something, but you got to be ready to do it when they call your number. There's no doubt about that. Trevelin Queen, you mentioned your parents. Tell me a little bit about them, and you saying doing this for them, right? Like, how did they guide you in getting to this moment so that you would have the opportunity to live out this dream?
My dad was always a guy that always kept me in a competitive spirit, competitive mode. Like, when I would go to the court, he'd come to my games, he'll let me know, like, the real deal. He wouldn't sugarcoat it and nothing like that. He'd be like, you suck, you try. You know what I'm saying? Just, like, stuff like that. So I wasn't always spoon-fed in situations where it was really hard for me. He always just, like, let me figure it out myself sometimes, and then let me know what I did wrong. But my mom, she was always, like, the hard worker, and just always make sure there was food on the table, like, no matter what the situation was. She made sure I got some new shoes, new socks, school clothes. Even she'd always put me first, no matter what she has to go out with her friends or take me to a game, she'd take me to the game. And then, you know what I'm saying, just, like, stuff like that, she'd always sacrifice. So I feel like I owe it to her for sacrificing for so many years. It's impossible to repay your mother, you know what I mean? Like, it's just impossible. So
yeah.
I just want to show her that I can take care of her as much as I can.
That's awesome, man. It's so cool to hear you talk like that, bro. It's just absolutely powerful. All right, Trevelin Queen, what can we plug for you social media-wise? Where can folks back this way be giving you a follow? Twitter, Instagram, anything like that?
My Instagram is TrevUpNow, at TrevUpNow, TREV up now.
Yep.
And then my Twitter is Trev_up, TREV_UP.
Excellent. Give him a follow in those spots. Trevelin Queen, man, we're so happy for you. It's an incredible story. Everything that you've been through, the work that you've had to put in order to get to this place, man. We can't wait to see what's next. Thank you so much for taking the time for us. Congratulations on living out this dream, and best of luck moving forward, all right?
Thank you, man. Y'all take it easy and take care.